My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Alrighty, as you can hear in the video that I captured under the fake sun that is rising at the Ontario Town Square, the same location where I am present in the evening in license 9, David Larry Paul 603. This psychotic female, an hostile lesbian that's obsessed with me and then is enraged because she's being documented in the midst of her obsession. She's stalking at Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue under the fake sun that is hovering over me as I'm walking toward the location where I'm at this morning. The sun would not be shining, you wouldn't see it, it wouldn't be in alignment. None of the scene that you see is a natural environment because 24 hours from the time that I documented this obsessed stalker yesterday speaks to the fact that it wouldn't be at that same location, address, ecological location in the morning, starting the day out. This is identification of a stalker, and this is a female that is stalking another woman who is inherently lesbian. You're gay, you're stalking me, and then you're hostile. Listen to everything. This is where you are going, under the evidence and the facts of what's actually happening, this is where involuntary commitments shall occur. Okay, so this is the entity that is gang stalking. Delta Airlines is stalking me in that video. The entity is stalking me by the Ontario Police moments before I capture that third party who is speaking as an entity. Delta Airlines is harassing and speaking. The U.S. military are speaking while they're stalking this morning. They're stalking right now. They're engaging in the cartwheels, following down the street, psychopathic behavior, plane after plane after plane. They're psychos. These are the demons that are upset, though, and they're scared when they hear the reality. They are being committed, and they know that.
I've told them before. I told them last night. I tell all of you that are witnessing this, and they engage in conduct that's going to result in that very thing. This is no entity for whom you feel sorry for. Okay, they certainly didn't feel sorry for the people that they've murdered. And they're going to be subject to commitments, and they're doing so under the fake sun, which is going to, literally science is going to have the mentally ill involuntarily committed. Okay, so it's not just science, it's also their criminal activity combined, and it's going to serve for having an entity involuntarily committed, prosecuted under criminal and civil law, and also the prosecution for treason. But this is the significance of what I captured in that video. My battery did die. I wanted to capture that video on that particular phone. I do want to go ahead and continue what I was stating, 9 DLP 603, just like I stated in the video, just like her behavior dictates, highly unstable, engaging in criminal conduct and highly unstable, and is speaking in a delusional manner, asking the questions that the evidence proves she already knows the answer to, and the purpose of that ongoing violent and threatening exchange is to intimidate, to retaliate, to threaten. And she's doing so not only as an unstable person, she is an entity, not the individual that is acting, nor is she doing so with regard to any actual knowing. In other words, she knows that it's not going to stop me from documenting. This is an entity that is desperate in the same way that they're gang stalking and they're not accomplishing any sacrifice of me. You're not taking my life. You're not going to do so. You're not going to do anything in a secretive manner. The feds are watching step by step, plane by plane, if you will. And not only that, you're still engaging in that target. So what is it that they call themselves accomplishing? Because it's also not witchcraft. All right. But you're breaking that down, what they're doing versus reality, and how you're going to be treated under by medical professionals, okay? And also under federal law, you're gonna be prosecuted because it's criminal activity. But the entity she's engaging in what is merely letting out frustrations that the entity shares. I'm talking in my evidence yesterday, very frustrated. Paul Leon being prosecuted, gang stalking companies being prosecuted. I'm talking about the entity that is mentally ill and engaging in what is speaking to the fact of companies no longer existing, companies that are anti-American, like Amazon Prime, etc. This entity is enraged by all these things. And so remember, this is a demon. The evidence that you are witnessing is not only to prosecute with tangible evidence, it is teaching you about the personality defect, the threat, the psychopath that is of a spirit that is satanic. And this demon is speaking hostility that is shared, and knows that you're not getting anywhere, knows that this demon knows that, first of all, she's not going to get out. Like, you're not going to, what are you going to do? You're going to fight me? You're going to beat me up? I'm going to be scared. I'm going to start running and screaming. I'm just going to give up my public investigation. Oh my goodness, this is it. I can't take it anymore. License 6 Nancy George David 730, stalking at 6:25 a.m. at Hope Boulevard and Vine Avenue, where the fake sun is over me as I'm progressing. And this is where I was at in the afternoon after leaving the laundromat, okay, where the entity is stalking with commercial planes, all of that, which I captured on video. All right. But nonetheless, the entity is engaging in this P.O.C. and they're doing so while they are engaging in harassment as an entity. Okay. And that is relevant for what is, as I give that context, that is something that any legitimate medical professional can also assess as they understand the pattern of conduct, as you're getting past the veil of malice. And you are also, for the protection of the public, prosecuting under the identification of an entire malicious system, malicious behavior, malicious purposes. Okay, so the entity is hostile because that veil of malice is removed, and they are going to be prosecuted for the illusions presented. Even the illusion that you're hostile and you're going to call the police that know you're gang stalking. Everybody's guilty, and they've done it before. They've done that before. Literally, you call, okay, everybody that shows up for what's not a crime and while you're gang stalking is going to prison. Okay, but they have done that before. But that's supposed to be a threat. And the tape is continuously rolling. Okay, so this is the entity that's just engaging in that to get you to stop. Or so that's never going to happen. It has yet to happen. Okay, where they're engaging what is a battery, like BLANCO and all his buddies at the Ontario Town Square. They're all going to prison. The kidnapping is September 28, 2025 is what you're going to refer to. And this is at the Ontario Town Square, where they engaged in kidnapping me, taking my property out of my hand, and then before kidnapping me, they are battering me. So I'm on that podcast that day screaming while the demons are engage in what is physically harming me. And this is, again, literally made up, come in my face, and then commence to engage in what is physically attacking me, and then kidnapping at the Ontario Town Square upon made-up assertions, okay? But the entity, that's the same Ontario Town Square where this entity is engaging in that. So I want to document the entity engaging in what this is Omnitrans engaging in what is molestation. Omnitrans that was gang stalking all day yesterday. Omnitrans employees who are all, every one of them, even those that weren't documented while I'm aboard the bus, stalking me in real time in relevant position with gang stalking police officers. Every single last one is going to be prosecuted as sex offenders because that's what they are, while demon-possessed gang stalkers are operating those coaches. And that's why on the opposite side of the street, they are affecting me while Impossible Light is attacking, just like what you saw inside of Walmart, just like what you saw in Upland, California. That's what the demons operating the coaches. And the fact of that, the proof of that, is the entity stalking by commercial planes. All right, that is UPS that was stalking yesterday afternoon at this same location. Omnitrans coach operators are going to be prosecuted as the sex offenders that they are, and those that engaged in this criminal pattern of conduct with the police departments that are gang stalking me and furtherance of murder and psychological torture, they're all going to federal prison. And they are sitting on the record before 2026. I embarrassed them before 2026. They've been on the record engaging in this for years, stalking me with the various gang stalking law enforcement agencies that are not law enforcement agencies, and that's why you're going to prison. But that's what the demons are doing while they're on the opposite side of the street and stalking by driving a bus. Very pathetic. Impossible Light is dragging all the way. You're on the opposite side of a broad street, and there's no sunlight that's going to occur. Since you're targeting me so hard, understand they're being targeted with federal law to put sex offenders like that on the record for the public. They will not be operating coaches. There won't even be an Omnitrans in particular, but they will not be operating coaches. They're a threat to the public. And while the entity does that, they will be committed. Stalking with light is mentally ill behavior, and this entity that is slow to understand that. They've demonstrated before medical professionals how unstable they are, rather than understanding that they should have been on their best behavior because they're being evaluated. All right, and they have shown that they are a threat to each other and the public, and they will be subject to involuntary commitments. Nonetheless, this is the entity that is gang stalking, and I wanted to make sure that you understood that, because that demon that was stalking 9DLP603 and all that energy she had, she's going to all that energy is going toward her involuntary commitment, because that's where she's headed. I am prosecuting her. She's going to prison. So this is P.O.C. And she was stalking with Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines, I was under that fake sun this morning at the Ontario Town Square, doing so with United Airlines, Alaska Airlines, which is the U.S. military, the homosexuals that are going to federal prison. They're going to be involuntarily committed, while I am documenting the pattern of conduct. Right now, you hear that plane activity? That's the same plane activity that's occurring at the Ontario Town Square. Okay, so I'm walking from one place to one place. That is literally the evidence of stalking. And the mentally ill that are going to be involuntarily committed are stalking in planes, and those are companies like Southwest Airlines, for example, they're no longer going to exist. Southwest Airlines is too much of a threat to the public. I'm not just prosecuting that business is going out of business. Alrighty, that's POC, but I will exhaust financially before they go out of business. City of Ontario, again, stalking. Paul Leon is being prosecuted. The fake sun while you're emptying the garbage. No, you're stalking in the path. And that is psychotic, okay? So this is a city, a municipality that's engaged in criminal activity together with the people of the state. This is Ontario Village Shopping Center, and everybody, for example, inside of Stater Brothers, just like the fake sun shows you while I'm here, and yesterday in the afternoon, so was this fake sun still at the same location while I'm standing in front of the Inks Tattoo and the dentist shop, the dentist parlor. Excuse me, the dentist and the tattoo parlor. License plate 7 Nancy Bob Sam 390 is stalking. And so were the third parties that I said are all going to prison, while the Ontario police were stalking conspicuously with them, while they were stalking with light, and UPS hovered over this parking lot, okay? They did so as a matter of evidence. There's no controversy. And the entity that provides this level of horrific and mentally ill behavior that is so nonsensical, if I were to describe it merely without any video, then that is supposed to be that which is solving the mental health concern of an American citizen, where gang members like Tracy Banks and Jason Fields and Eric Spencer state that I'm mentally ill. That same evidence, the purpose for criminal defamation, is how they're going to be involuntarily committed. Okay, license 5 NIV 851. This is the criminal activity that the entity likes to acclaim is within the imagination of an American citizen. Oh, and it's very real, and they're going to be committed by it. Okay, that's the P.O.C. That which is used to criminally defame an American citizen is going to be used to involuntarily commit the entity, the gang stalkers. 9 Barry Kelly Frank 385. This is the fake sun over me at 6:32 a.m. at the Stater Brothers. The Stater Brothers, where I'm here in the middle of the afternoon. Everybody in the grocery store is stalking. Everybody's in position stalking. These are mentally ill people. Everything, they're all on a stage under a fake sun, and this is a prosecution of a business. They've sacrificed their business. And all what little bit of money Stater Brothers has is not the biggest company in the state at all. But I'm going to prosecute them, though. They've sacrificed a big enough business, and the entity's doing so while they're monitoring, engaging in surveillance in the parking lot. 9. Okay, this is, again, not a brother of mine. African-American, license 9 Paul Apple Frank 537. That's no brother of mine. Okay, it's probably another homosexual military man. Okay, but those aren't men, but military male. But this is the entity that's engaging in stalking. They're all stalking, and everybody's shown to be stalking because the fake sun, remember what's hovering over El Pollo Loco when I walk out, and the entity thought it was a good idea to stalk in a plane as I'm walking out. That was on the opposite. We can recite exactly what happened. That's why you document. You're being committed. And you woke up today, actually you didn't even go to sleep. I went to sleep, right? You were obsessing over me even while I was sleeping. And as I wake up, you have not learned and you're still engaged. That's exactly why you're getting committed. Because demons don't learn. They have to be committed. They have to be put in prison. This is the P.O.C. This is prosecuting everybody inside of Stater Brothers. That's David Quinones. Stater Brothers at 646 West Holt. I'm going to show you the fake sun right now. And they were monitoring while UPS was gang stalking as an entity, molesting with lights, stalking with the police, the fire department. They were all engaging in that ambush together. All right, and they are also right now. That's the P.O.C. It's 6:33 a.m. You will see the fake sun hovering over the same building that it is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is when I was here yesterday. Everybody in this grocery store is a demon. They're all stalking me. Alrighty, and that is no movie, that's real life, and that's the makeup for involuntary commitments. And that is called a backfire regarding what was never witchcraft in the first place. P.O.C. P.O.C. Stater Brothers. It is 6:34 a.m. All right, it is 6:41 a.m. The entity that is gang stalking, like I'm documenting, is monitoring monitoring vagina in the bathroom. You have foot traffic outside of the bathroom. The African-American male, whose license plate I'm going to remind you about right now, is engaging in that sex offense on behalf of the entity that gives evidence against them. License 8 Edward Yolanda 240. That's 8 EEY 240. And those are employees. This is Stater Brothers. That's going to be prosecuted as a sex offender. Again, that's unprecedented criminal conduct and unprecedented civil damages because that which a business is engaging in, the business is engaging in as a public matter. So that's just not one sex offender. Obviously, it's an entity, but this is a matter of what is the government keeping your genitalia under surveillance as a means of what is surveillance by a whole population. License 6 Yolanda David Nancy 858 is the African American stalking and doing so pursuant to monitoring my vagina in the bathroom, tracking my steps and stalking me as I walk out of the bathroom, doing so while I'm in this same parking lot where the entity is stalking in the afternoon, and the fake sun is over me now at 6:43 a.m. This is a violent sex offender and a serial stalker. This is federal prison for the employees of Stater Brothers, where UPS, all these demons that gang stalk the people of the state, and then they think that they're going to avoid, the gang stalking protocol is to act like it's not happening. So while they're engaged in that and they're acting like this is the entity that is in fact mentally ill, while you're acting like nothing's happening, you are being set up to be committed. All right, but that's the entity that's engaged in that, and they cannot act like they're not crazy. That's the only thing that they can't do is they cannot act like they're not guilty, and they cannot act like they're not going to be subject to a facility. You can act like however you want, because you're going to be locked up acting however you feel as though you should be acting then in those circumstances when they're being delusional, and that's where those delusional people get those types of rewards. Nonetheless, this is documentation of the sex offense by the entity that stalks you to the venue. This is how the entity is always telling on itself, and so I'm going to document that because you can understand and you can see how you document and you from the beginning to the end where the entity likes to have gaps or there's some sort of difference or this person is, no, they're not. And it's very clear and obvious. But this is the entity that practices those things, and I document that as well because you're going to be committed. You're going to be treated as the mentally ill entity that you are, and you did that before me when you thought that you were going to sacrifice me. Oh, no, I'm going to document it and put it on a microphone for the world to witness. Alrighty, that's the entity that's engaged in that. And the third-party license plate that I just documented, the U.S. military testifies against them. 38451 Edward 4 does the same. Let me show you. Stalking in the path. All right, crossing path while the entity is stalking. This is what I was documenting while I was walking out of the El Pollo Loco, and they were stalking by planes. And I reminded you about what happened in the morning. Right now is what they're doing as I'm walking out of the entrance, and the entity is engaging in cartwheels in alignment to my position under that fake sun 8 hours earlier. Yeah, they're engaged in vagina monitoring. That third party is the African-American whose license plate I just read, the demons that are employed, 6EEY240, I believe, they're all engaging in that sex offense together. Stater Brothers is. Okay, corporate actors, that's the Ontario Village Shopping Center, the Ontario Shopping Center, the entirety of it is. But the entities engaged in this, remember, I'm merely on the east side of San Antonio. Yesterday afternoon, after 3 and 4 o'clock, I was on the west side of this same San Antonio, where this village is. And the fake sun remained over me while the entity was stalking by plane. The entity was doing so while I was walking out, and all of this you document. And then followed me back to this environment, which is supernatural, and leaves out the state of Florida, for example, as ever experiencing sunlight and having the sun in the state. And the entities engage in what is acting like none of that is happening while they are their whole idiotic system, their ongoing extroverted system, their lack of any stealth, their lack of any covert operation, their lack of any, clearly also you see the lack of self-control, because not only are you not smart and then you're triggered while that's called out and it's documented and you're humiliated. Why are you humiliated? Who told you that that was ever a good idea anyway? This is the most idiotic thing that I have ever witnessed. So I'm documenting it because it is an easy case. It's not difficult, but it's a matter of the time with regard to capturing the pattern of conduct in the environment. That takes time to show there's no exception, to understand the ongoing significance of what I captured, and that's a year by year even analysis. But that's not impossible to accomplish, okay? That takes big picture assessment and then understanding what you're accomplishing on a day-to-day basis. This is an entity that's engaging in that. David Quinones is going to prison, okay? David Fugate in Fontana, California, this fool is stalking me under a fake sun, poisoning the products that I purchase, and I'm being targeted by planes in the parking lot. And how do you think you're going to be treated in federal court? Because you're a terrorist. How do you surmise, okay? That's the entity that is stalking. Another employee with impunity, 6 Yolanda Henry Larry, 801. Stalking with the entity. That's the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct together. They are violent sex offenders. Their children that they give birth to are violent sex offenders, monitoring your genitalia, just like the demons, the homosexuals that are stalking in planes and helicopters, serving and prosecuting the whole population that is targeting on its behalf. The sex offender that is the U.S. government. The stalker that is the U.S. government, under things as absurd and asinine as the fake sun, which puts the target on all of them. And the targets are going to be involuntarily committed. This is P.O.C. This is the prosecution of a corporate entity that is Stater Brothers. And the prosecution of Stater Brothers is accomplishing, I can use this to prosecute any business because it's a pattern of conduct. Good morning, Matt. I'm well. Matt is engaging in the pattern of conduct crossing path and is doing so under the fake sun at... time is it? 6:48 a.m. So this is the P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaging in gang stalking. Does not distract away from the analysis. Gang stalking does not cause the evidence to disappear. Gang stalking will not cause fear and effectively deter someone from prosecuting you. And the entity that engages in that is federally violating with regard to obstruction of justice. That's adding more charges. That's enhancement to sentencing. That's enhancement to damages. It will not engage in what is making it go away. And it certainly is not witchcraft that is going to cause them to look less like vagina monitoring psychopaths, stalking and floating in the air, stalking with light that is floating in the air, stalking as a population that just look to the side while they're stalking you like they're playing football with their backs to you. They're psychotic. And just as crazy as it would look to play football while people keep their back to you and look the opposite direction, but they're clearly following you, and you're clearly the target, who does that, right? You can picture that. Imagine that in your mind, because this is how backwards they look, and they're going to be committed with that. The picture that they created, the system that they created, that they're engaging in, and now they're engaging in that in front of all of you, and they're going to be committed by it, and that is they're being humiliated by it. This is their own concoction. The entity that is gang stalking is doing so while they are claiming that the targeted individual is imagining it, that it's not happening, that they're mentally ill as a matter of a conclusion of the practice of medicine. Hilarious. And the flip side of that malice is that not only is it not within anybody's imagination, certainly not all the witnesses, it's absolutely true, and even more about it is true. And since that is the case, and you've served to diagnose yourself based on the veracity of the allegations, who is mentally ill? The one that knows very well that it is true, and that person is not mentally ill. In fact, you are mentally ill as that entity. And you shall be subject to that which American citizens have a right to not be subject to in the first place, because the one that needs to be committed is the one that's engaging in that criminal defamation upon federal group stalking, monitoring, gang stalking. And gang stalkers shall be subject to involuntary commitments. They shall be prosecuted as violent sex offenders. They shall be prosecuted under Article 3, Section 3 for treason. They shall be subject to what is prosecution for damages. They will compensate the targeted individual, and that is not going to be based on your economic status. In fact, if you're broke, that should incentivize you, even if you're wealthy, because you're going to feel that. It's going to break, and that's a matter of justice. But even if you're broke, you're going to be broken, financially broke. You will also be broken because you're going to compensate the targeted individual. All right, the entities engaging in this P.O.C. and they will be subject to involuntary commitments while the allegations are absolutely true. And the entity is aware of what they're doing, so that's malice. And they have served to document and substantiate what are absolutely necessary medical examinations and involuntary commitments for their criminal conduct, which is proven by the P.O.C. All right, and this is prosecuting Stater Brothers, which is prosecuting every business in California. That's the pattern of conduct. It's currently 6:51 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, as an aside, I want to go ahead and remind you that which demons have been speaking of on the internet, while again supporting a terrorist like Jason Fields, supporting mental illness like what Jason Fields suffers from, demon possession, a predator, a terrorist, like what Jason Fields is. I just want to clarify that everything that I'm documenting is relevant to this state actor who has under no circumstances any sort of future prospects with me. The future prospects that I intend is that he suffer federal prison. Okay, you do not become, just like in any other crime, where you're engaging in what is criminal activity, and because you are providing evidence to help that person that you first intended to kill, and it's also dubious with regard to what your general intentions are, even after having done that for self-serving purposes, because the same criminal pattern of conduct remains underway, and it is unclear actually what that person's motivations are. That is also speaking to what is necessary as a matter of justice, which is not being removed from punishment, from being punished altogether. The target individual is not ceasing to be subject to the pattern of conduct because you give information to the feds or or report it. Understood? But I will be clear, the only way that anyone is ever going to be removed from prosecution, so the whole housing subdivision is gang stalking, right? Just give you an example, because it's more than just a housing community that's gang stalking. It's the whole city, it's the state. But that housing subdivision is engaged in the pattern of conduct, and you're there, and you live in that housing subdivision, and perhaps you you want to report it, but you don't. You feel guilty about it, but you don't do anything about it. In fact, by living in that housing subdivision, you are gang stalking. You are part of the criminal pattern of conduct. And there's no avoiding that. You are monitoring, and you're going to be prosecuted for that. The entity is engaging in that which is criminal under all circumstances. That entire housing subdivision is going to be prosecuted. Even the builders of that housing subdivision is going to be federally prosecuted because they're monitoring as they construct it. They're monitoring as they're making money from it. The people of the state are paying their rent, mortgages, and you're profiting from gang stalking. I'm going to prosecute you. This is how terrorism is prosecuted in the U.S. The entity has made a system of sustaining an economic framework by it, and you're going to prosecute that. You're not keeping that. That's absurd. So the entity is engaging in this P.O.C. and but for reporting it to the feds, you're not escaping a prosecution. And I don't care how good-hearted or how guilty you feel. Your feelings are irrelevant. This is the law, and that is the standard. Like any other criminal conspiracy, unless you engage in what is an affirmative act regarding what is breaking, what is that ongoing criminal conspiracy. A criminal conspiracy is a legal act. It's illegal, but meaning it's legally significant. And you engage in what are acts acting that are accomplishing the criminal objective and furtherance of that conspiracy, where you establish that conspiracy. And in order to break that, which is legally existing in and of itself, even apart from the criminal objective itself, unless and until you engage in some affirmative act, such as reporting it, you remain a part of the crime and you will be held liable under the law. You're going to be prosecuted, and it's not based on your emotions. And this is an entity. And why is that? Because the government is conspiring murder and trying to kidnap and defame people and doing so. And you think that your emotions are relevant, and they are not. Not at all. Okay? And that is particularly infuriating when people are so self-absorbed and arrogant, where American citizens are dying because of your engagement in some cowardly gang conduct, where you and your mental illness is attacking another person. Nobody cares about how you feel. So the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and until you engage in an affirmative act such as reporting it to the feds, because it's no longer a conspiracy, you report it to the feds. So you have to stand out, and if you don't want to, you're going down with the rest of the entity. There is no getting out of the pattern of conduct. And when you're documenting gang stalking, the fake sun is over your house, honey, everybody in that neighborhood is being prosecuted. So the entities engage, and this is the pitfall, because this is how their whole system operated. And before it was fun. It's so funny. That's because you're mentally ill. But it's not funny on the flip side, huh? It's not funny because those are the legal ramifications. This is gang violence. And by the way, the so-called gang leaders, these homosexuals with no strategy and no self-control, they're getting you in trouble by the minute. They keep flying, stalking me over the subdivision where you live. You're going to be prosecuted. And as I'm documenting that, as I live there, everybody in that, so you're all going to prison. My neighbors are going to prison. This is the entity that engages in that. And that's the backfire of the system that the U.S. government created. Okay, so the entity is engaging in that, and I want to be clear. This is to point something out, because you give information to the feds for whatever purpose, even if it's because you're a coward and you're scared about going to prison where you belong. The entity is engaging in that, and it is even under these facts, it is not even clear what Jason Fields is and who he's trying to, which I don't care about, but I'm just letting you know this is a dubious character. He is untrustworthy, in other words, and the federal government is, it is your job to assess that. He is untrustworthy. So regardless of whatever partial truths that you have, whatever information that does give you aiding in this investigation, which I am championing, I'm maintaining the main investigation. I'm the one still subject to the P.O.C. You have not conducted a raid and stopped them from gang stalking. That's why I'm documenting right now in the morning. This is not, in other words, removing Jason Fields from prison. It's not. The notion that he is going to meet up with me somewhere, I kid you not, this is an entity that is mentally ill. He has been publicly warned. All right? This is somebody that represents a threat, and that threat is not going to be based on his feelings, but it's based on the target individual who has made a clear boundary. Okay? You have not switched sides because you, in your mind, tell yourself that that's the case. I'm still subject to this P.O.C. If you ever engage in conspicuously stalking me, you are going to regret it. You're engaged in targeting me online. You call that an investigation. You're engaged in targeting me still. You're still a part of this entity that is still targeting me, regardless of whether you have given information to the feds who are going to eventually do their job. And the entity, you are not ceasing to be that which the target individual understands and reasonably understands and identifies you as, which is a threat that has a responsibility. You better stay away from me. or you're going to pay the price for it. And that is relevant to what is also mental instability. You're a stalker, and you're a stalker who has been publicly advised. And if as a stalker you violate that boundary, understand that your mental illness, by virtue of engaging in that, is what is going to be at the outset regarding a controversy in order to prosecute you and enforce my rights. That's a mentally ill stalker that's obsessed, refusing to respect my rights, but yet you're giving information to the feds so that you can, no, that's not how you're getting out of this. There's no such thing as getting out of it, especially under these facts. Because but for me documenting and prosecuting, Jason Fields wouldn't have given any information to the feds. He is the corrupt feds. All right, so I just want to be clear. This entity is entirely untrustworthy and has filthy hands. And I don't mean to say this because this is not gloating, but this is the reality. The only one that can be trusted is me, and that's exactly why I had to maintain this investigation. And as I've been maintaining investigation, it's an ongoing threat to my life and liberty. Jason Fields is not a friend. That has not lessened the threat. The entity is battering me over nightfall. This is no future spouse or husband. How is he protecting me? He is not. That's why you never should have engaged in anal, tantric, stalking, monitoring, conspiring, sitting around gossiping like a female with my fake mother. Those are things you can't apologize for, and that's why you're on the side that you are. And there is no information that you're giving to the feds that's going to change that. So understand, you need to focus on doing a job. This is a prosecution. There will be no reconciliation, and I'm sick of hearing that. There will be no reconciliation. It is not possible. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 6:59 a.m. I want you to listen to the entity stalking by planes, and I'm going to capture the license plates of the people of the state. That is Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines that is stalking in Upland. Delta Airlines stalking yesterday with 6 DLP 903 threatening me and engaging in what is harassing me as a hostile third party. And Delta Airlines that is stalking in the morning under this fake sun that followed me to this venue where I'm present in the evening. Delta Airlines is going to be federally prosecuted just like Southwest, just like UPS, all right, just like every other gang stalking airline that's engaging in the same pattern of conduct. And Delta Airlines has a documented history of targeting me, including at this very parking lot, this venue, in the middle of the afternoon while the fake sun is over my head. All right, I'm going to prosecute Delta Airlines just like every other corporate actor. Delta Airlines is going to be a sex offender under the law. Okay, so that's unprecedented damages. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. The same mentally ill psychopath, the African American, is stalking in the front by playing with a shopping cart. He's mentally ill monitoring, and I'm going to go ahead and show you pictures of that while Delta Airlines is flying over the parking lot. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7 a.m. on the dot. Right, it is currently 7:10 a.m. And as I stated, the mentally ill are stalking inside of a grocery store, stalking while you walk by, like fake coughing and going around with a flashlight while the lights in the store are on. Perhaps they're looking for roaches or something. Actually, what's manifesting are the symptoms of mental illness and the entity that's gang stalking, very psychopathic. And this is how, again, on an individual basis, on an individual level, even though these aren't individuals under the law, but on an individual level, as you document, for example, a third party, and it's analogous to the entity harassing you for documenting your license plate, yelling, threatening to call the police, flying over your head by a helicopter, the entity engaging, resorting to criminal summoning as you document them. So is the entity that is mentally ill, that is engaging in what is stalking with noise and going about with the manifestation of light, like the African American that is exposing symptoms of mental illness. This is an entity that will, under all circumstances, suffer the consequences of engaging in what is gang stalking, which is mentally ill conduct. They are going to have themselves committed, and they are always damaging the business, which is, again, not an actual business. This is a soul that's sharing in what is sexual assault and battery with impossible light. They're all on surveillance cameras, which I am referencing right now at what is 7:11 a.m. This is the conduct of the mentally ill. Okay, while they all look around like nothing's happening, and they're stalking you and attacking you with light, and they're engaging in what is stalking you with noise, and they do so with their children that are also demons, and they're gang stalking with them. This is the entity that's going to serve the consequences for that, and it includes involuntary commitments. All right, it includes things like deportation. It does include the entity that's going to be subject to what are damages. All right, and to that end, obviously, this is the type of venue where you need to be mindful of what you're consuming, who you're purchasing it from. A terrorist like Stater Brothers that I've also documented engaging in what is tampering with the products that I purchase. This is an entity that's engaging in what is poisoning while gang stalking and being psychotic. 59763, that's the California license plate, crossing path, stalking. And the entity is engaging in what is molesting with lights. I'm going to go ahead and get some more license plates of sex offenders. These are terrorists. While the entity is flashy with light, you document the impulsive light activity. That's damning evidence. The demons are all hostile and you're getting accosted with light, attacked with light. They're going to be committed with that evidence, okay? The entity is engaging in a psychotic behavior, a soul, and the third party, the African American. So he's stalking with noise while I'm in the grocery store. And then while doing so, you'll see this, well, you're not gonna see it because I didn't take a picture, but as I am in that store, he's stalking with noise. This is the grocery store that's filled with engineer light. So he's already surrounded with evidence speaking to what is his questionable mind state, mental health, and how much of a threat he is. He's very much of a threat, and this is relevant for what is not just going to be prison, which he's subject to, it's going to be commitments. And the more that he engages in what is stalking somebody that is publishing the evaluation, he's going to be involuntarily committed. The license 6 Yolanda, David Nancy 858. Crawling around on the floor and coughing loudly as I'm walking by, that's called stalking with activity. Stalking somebody else in that absurdly psychotic manner, very microaggressive, passive-aggressive type conduct. The entity that's conspiring your murder and doing so, very passive-aggressive, microaggressive type conduct. And you're doing so while the government is giving all sorts of evidence against you as well. That's how that works, and he's doing it under the fake sun. It is very targeted. But nonetheless, the entity is also doing so while he's then getting your attention. You hear the noise and you look and then you see a demon. He's got a manifestation of light, all right? This is the demon that's engaged in that P.O.C. It will merely be noted while you are accumulating a record that's going to result in you being committed. That's the reward. And these are the self-defeatist tactics of the mentally ill. Edward Charlie 65 Victor 25. That looks like a taped on paper plate, but I'll go ahead and take a picture of it. It's under the fake sun. This is P.O.C. All right, that's the entity engaged in that pattern of conduct and doing so at the Stater Brothers. So as an aside, I want to briefly just, like I've been doing, as I am documenting, as I'm prosecuting, I am informing and educating because you benefit from what you're witnessing. Because this is going on in whatever state that you're in, and this is also going on around the globe. So the entity that's engaging in the pattern of conduct, especially when you're paying attention to venues such as a grocery store, which is, again, serving the purpose of surveillance. The entity is engaged in what is tampering with products. Let me go ahead and document this. 5LPU 784, Latino male. I documented them already. 7MTF 610, Latino male. And this is directly relevant to the entity that is stalking. I'm at the same El Pollo Loco where I was yesterday afternoon while the entity is stalking. And the demons that are in, again, the grocery store are going to prison. So the entity is engaging in, I documented them, so I'm going to document them again visually. 59763. That's a Latino male. All right, so the entity is engaging in the stalking conduct, and they're doing so while they are tampering with products, right? Tampering with products that you buy, you consume. This is a threat to your safety. And companies like Stater Brothers are not going to remain. They're not going to exist. Okay, they're going to go out of business with regard to what is bad for business, which is gang stalking, and they're going to learn all of these things the very hard way because they're going to be emptied out financially, and then they're going to go out of business. And I'm also going to take that reputation of that business, make sure that everyone knows that you are a terrorist and that you're a threat to American citizens whom you hate and who should not support your business. But the entity is engaging in the P.O.C. and the type of conduct that the entity engages in is tampering with the very products, especially the ones while they're targeting you, the type of products that you purchase. And because you're subject to surveillance, and as I'm showing you, pursuant to gang stalking, you're subject to what is targeting, and that is targeting even what it is that you consume and what the entity reasonably assumes that you would consume. So the entity that is keeping a fake sun over you is one that is selling products to you. And one of the things that I advocate is what is the changing of the laws that enable ongoing targeting through what are products that are designed to harm you. The entity that's engaging what is systematically poisoning people, while the United States is maintaining an experimentation of American citizens, poisoning them systematically, which is also why the employees are going to prison at Stater Brothers. They're also going to prison because they've been engaged in gang stalking, just like I documented this morning. They're going to prison. There's no change. There's no about face. The government does not. The government that they're getting stalked with doesn't even care that they're going to prison. In other words, if your co-defendant was about to get in trouble for something, typically your co-defendant doesn't want you to get caught, so you work together with regard to whatever you're trying to. No, not the demons that are gang stalking with the people. Okay, and these are all demons, so they themselves don't care about going to prison. And also the government that is stalking is giving a wealth of evidence against you. You can, without a word, you don't have to say anything, because I'm going to surround you with the P.O.C. of the government, and you are going to prison for it. And the entities engaging in this P.O.C. with regard to Stater Brothers, that is such a threat that removing that company from existence, which is well within the authority of the federal government, because you don't have a right under the Constitution to engage in terrorism and to engage in what is also attempted murder. Violent acts such as battery, poisoning, tampering with, under any circumstances, the products, and Stater Brothers is engaged in doing that. One of the things that I advocate, and this is the thing that you need to pay attention to, is purchasing, first of all, natural foods, but also purchasing products that are actually sealed. So there are seals that appear to be secure, or that would appeal to what, especially the FDA and all of these so-called acronyms, this is the same entity that's keeping us under surveillance, approving one type of sealing of food as and calling that safe. Whereas when it's received by gang stalkers such as Stater Brothers, they are able to remove that so-called sealing and put it back and put it on the shelf, and you are buying something that's been tampered with, and it appears as though it's the same. And that's the test. It's not secure. Something that is airtight, such as liquids in a bottle where there is no air in the bottle, the liquid in the bottle is not moving around because it's actually airtight, that is actually secure, and it forces the entity that is receiving the products to provide proof that it's been tampered with. Also, it is also speaking to what is the direct source of where any sort of tampering would occur, and it would occur where it was manufactured, where it was bottled, if you will, at the source. These are the things that need to change with regard to knowledge, proof of this system that is underway. This is speaking to the threat that the U.S. government poses. The entity that is stalking by planes is the entity that's a sex offender, keeping your genitalia under surveillance, and it is also the entity that is poisoning you. So the entity's engaging in this, and this is changing the laws by necessity. And airtight liquid products are not merely an option, that's something that is mandated, or you can't go into the business of selling products that are consumed by American citizens that are threatened by the demon-possessed serial killers, who are the people of the state, as I'm showing you criminal activity by the mentally ill inside of the grocery store. Okay? Gang stalking, going around crawling on the floor, coughing loudly to monitor, and then manifesting light because he's monitoring, and he's a hostile demon. All right, stalking me by planes and helicopters. Yeah, you need to be very careful about what you're consuming, and that's a venue that shouldn't even exist in the first place, because you have a right to, and it's you're perfectly capable of buying your foods from someone else that is not threatening your life and stalking you and threatening your well-being by poisoning you, which is a very real, reasonable threat and fear, where the entity is gang stalking you, like Stater Brothers is. Okay, they are the one that are putting out the ongoing poor campaign regarding Stater Brothers and that corporate entity that I'm prosecuting. So I just want to be clear: airtight. Not merely that you feel secure, and you should not feel secure because it's got the sealing on it, the plastic top, and once you open it, then it snaps open, and that's the bottle that's then open. The entity is engaged in what is tampering with that, and that can be removed and put back on, okay? Something that is airtight, however, once you open that, they can, after leaving where it's bottled, where it's originally manufactured, once you open that, they cannot like re-airtight it, if you will. They can't make it airtight again once that has been broken, and that is something that provides a reasonable level of security. And that is also the reason why is because anything that happens with an airtight container is something that you can go directly to where it comes from. Right? There's no mystery there either. Unless there's facts and circumstances that speaks to what would still be a clear identification, they could give you information. Well, yes, it is airtight, and that is the case, but whatever we did something and this is why we rebottled and it's airtight or whatever. My point is that it would be something that would be as a matter of record of what they're doing when they're creating the product, and there would be no mystery there. In other words, you're shipping it out to distributors like Stater Brothers who are not able to open it and then put it on the shelf. You can turn the bottle, you see air moving in it, it's not airtight. And that's something that you shouldn't purchase. With regard to cans, canned objects, the entity is engaging in what is tampering with the products that I have seen with regard to the plastic tops that are providing a superficial means of feeling secure that it hasn't been snapped open yet. Also, even with the baby food, they're poisoning baby food. And the entity is engaging in that sort of conduct, which is letting you know about everything, okay? The baby food has, again, a superficial means of keeping it sealed. All right, if you're aware of those little tops or where you open them, and once you twist it open, that is when it is, it's twisted, it's contorted in a way to where you can tell that it's been opened. But they are able to remove that and put whatever substances in there and reassemble that top. Again, these are shallow, superficial means of appearing as though they satisfy government restriction, and the government that is engaging in surveillance is also aware of that. So you're getting to what is actually secure as a means of protection from poisoning. This is all assuming that you're still going to remain a consumer of the U.S. government in the first place, because if you have the resources, this is something where you should really be investing in growing your own food and maintaining your own resources, where you don't have to worry about the government poisoning you. You don't have to worry about psychopaths that you're documenting trying to poison you, because they're willing to go to prison, because everybody in Stater Brothers is going to prison over it. Okay, so the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, and they're doing so because they are in fact mentally ill. So you're not dealing with sane people that are like, oh man, okay, this is getting too serious. I don't want to, like a normal person would, a normal criminal, if you would. Okay, a criminal that would be like, okay, well, I was down for that, but I'm not trying to go to prison. I didn't plan on getting caught, you know, and because I don't want to get caught, I don't want to go to prison, I'm going to go ahead and stop now. That's not what the demon-possessed do. They are in fact mentally ill, and they sacrifice themselves. You're not dealing with people, you're dealing with demons. Those demons are using these people who want to appear as though they're human beings. No, those are demons that are dressed up as human beings. All right, so they're engaged in criminal activity, and they're engaged in criminal activity to their own demise. And they engage in what is sacrificing the vessels that they use. And they do so, those vessels, the people of the state, conduct themselves like nothing is happening when they're heading straight to mental facilities and they're headed to prison. All right, so this is the entity that engages in that because of the severe mental instability that they suffer from. This is the P.O.C. What? I don't get it. Anyway, 69751 Charlie 4, stalking under the fake sun in the afternoon at the same location. This is a white pickup truck celebrating being documented. Those are demons. But anyway, they are documented yesterday in the afternoon, and they're throwing up the peace sign. And this morning under the fake sun, while they're monitoring, again, that's the demons that are honking. I'm not... they're going out of their way to get my attention while they're monitoring. Again, this is the entity that's gang stalking, but that's prosecuting 7:24 a.m. under the fake sun and throwing up the peace sign again. So he's gang stalking yesterday afternoon. Nonetheless, back to what I'm talking about. So that's the entity that is indeed mentally ill. And you're not dealing with the level of normalcy. In other words, federal prison and involuntary commitments is not deterring the criminal conduct that you will be subject to. And so you do act accordingly with wisdom, okay? So I do want to speak to that. That's something that I advocate, especially with regard to the entity that should not even be permitted to maintain a business if you can't provide that level of security. And this is, again, I fully intend to have businesses like Stater Brothers out of business. Businesses like Amazon Prime that are not too big to fail, and they're going to find out otherwise. This is the entity that's engaging in that, and that is also speaking to the entity that is engaging in conduct as though you're going to, like we are all Amazon Prime subjects, and they can abuse their subjects, moreover, take your money, and then they're still going to remain, quote unquote, in power. This is the type of sickness behind a corrupt business that's keeping you under surveillance, and doing so with the level of impunity that Amazon Prime is exhibiting, stalking me at every corner and intersection, stalking in their planes, their demon-possessed employees stalking in the vehicles, and doing so while they keep my evidence under surveillance. They're going to regret all of that. And you need to know about it, because you need to know how companies that you give a lot of money to, how they actually feel about you and what they're doing to you. They're keeping your genitalia under surveillance. They despise you and your so-called constitutional rights and your human rights. all right? And they fully intend to continue violating you, and they want to keep you as a customer at the same time. That's up to you, all right? But the entity is engaging in this, and this is speaking to what is warfare, treason, sex offenders going by company names, terrorists and stalkers going by company names. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. This is just speaking to what it is that I advocate as I've seen. There is one product, and it sells it in different flavors. I'm just giving you a general example. And the product is airtight. It's a liquid, it's a drink, it's a beverage. And as I'm picking up the same one in different flavors, I'm picking up the bottle, and they're all airtight. That's why I bought it. But as I pick up one bottle, I see it's not airtight. You can see the air bubbles moving around in the bottle. So it's been tampered with. They broke that seal, and then they repositioned the top. It's not airtight. I picked up another one. It's not airtight. I picked up another one. It's not airtight. And then I picked up one that was airtight. So they're mixing in tampered products. They're putting them in the front. And I'm finding one that is actually airtight. And this product, this beverage in particular, is one that is sold and it is airtight. That's what you need to know about paying attention to what the demon possessed are selling you. They're engaging in this conduct while you consume it, and then they sit back, they gang stalk you, keep you under surveillance, and they watch you deteriorate. They watch you die. They give what are false ideas, illusions pertaining to your health and what happened. Oh, you died, a healthy person, of a heart attack. That's the entity that's been systematically poisoning you the whole time. All right, these are the type of things that the entity that you hear gang stalking me by planes and helicopters, that are stalking me under the fake sun and throwing up the peace sign, engaging in that together. License plate 8 Victor 28154, and Safeguard is gang stalking, the same one that's going to prison. 9 Charlie Yolanda David 514 under the fake sun. He engaged in criminal summoning. He's going to prison, and he is stalking now. All right, this is the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct, and I wanted to make sure that I share that with you. Not only is this a beverage that is airtight, but this beverage is one that was positioned on the counter, inside of the store, and they are selling them, mixing after having tampered with them, and some are airtight and some are not airtight. That's what I'm observing. Okay, so I just wanted to speak to that, but again, this is a means of being able to identify that yourself, and it's a means of what is also necessary because of what the U.S. government is engaging in and what's happening around the globe. And airtight beverages, for example, that are also canned, but even that is something to beware of. The entity that's engaging in what is that pattern of conduct, and obviously nothing is ever just static. The entity that's aware that it's exposed is engaging in what is trying to, even not these idiots though, they're gang stalking in the exact same manner that I said. The fake sun, stalking in the path, psychopathic pacing, as I said, they do the exact same thing over and over and over again. They don't get any, they don't. And you know why? It's because they are what I said. It's because they're demons, and that's how demons monitor you. So that's not going to change. That's spiritual, what they're doing. So, and in their mind, they think it's not witchcraft. That's why it's not working, and you're going to be committed. But this is the entity that's engaging in that ritual, and that ritualistic conduct is going to have them committed, and that's exactly where they need to go. They are a threat to the American people. Okay, this is what they do. They engage in rituals over and over again until they kill you. They engage in rituals and over and over again as they worship your genitalia, as they violate your privacy. Okay, and this is something that I wanted to speak to with regard to the entity that is tampering with products, and I just wanted to speak generally regarding what is the Safeguard on Demand 9CYD514 is engaged in obsessively stalking. Okay, I am standing outside on my phone, and he's engaged in what is very much focused on me, just like he was the other day. Okay, but I just want to document that because he's going to prison, and this is the entity that's obsessed with you, including while they call the police who are obsessed with you, who are not even police officers. They're all obsessively stalking, and then they engage in the iterations of targeting, like what he did, this demon, this Latino male with Safeguard on Demand. Okay, so that's federal. He's going to federal prison. The entity that's gang stalking me at 11 o'clock in the morning, helicopter over my head, Southwest Airlines, psychotic. Oh, where are you landing, Southwest? Oh, right here in the parking lot. Okay, got it. Documented. Where the entity is stalking my Amazon Prime Air, engaging in cartwheels over this parking lot, and you're harassing me, talking about the owner. The mysterious owner, when I'm here at 6 in the morning, and the owner, I don't know where the cameras are, I don't know where the owner is, I don't know what it is that I'm doing that's causing me to be a focal point, but this is what he said, and this is the entity that then engages in what is criminal summoning while gang stalking with the same Ontario Police Department, by the way, engaged in that same P.O.C. He's going to prison, and so are the gang members that show up. And this is the criminal pattern. This is what I pointed out yesterday while I was walking from this venue. All right, 8WXZ741, I believe. That's the P.O.C. Safeguard on Demand is a stalker. Okay, so you're not even engaged in security guard services, which is relevant for what is malicious behavior, while you're conspiring somebody's murder, and then you're hostile and you engage in targeting them with kidnappers and sex offenders with whom you are obsessing over me, and you're doing that because they are seeking to enforce their rights, and you know that because you're monitoring on the venue of the internet. All of this is already proven with regard to the fake son that's over. He's surrounded by evidence, and so is the entity stalking. He's going to prison with the homosexuals of the U.S. military, providing ongoing systematic evidence against him. But this is the entity that engages in that. This is the entity that is poisoning, tampering with foods. And if you don't know any better, the difference between an airtight container and one that is not airtight, and that's something that you pay attention to. The entity is inside of the store, putting them together, okay? The same product, some are airtight and some are not airtight, and that's because they've been tampered with, okay? This is the entity that's engaging in that, and that is something that is, again, one of the ways in which the entity, if you are going to continue consuming from them, is it a threat to the public, all right? This is P.O.C. All right, you will see the fake son over the venue, which is Miss Donuts. The entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct with the entity stalking by plane and helicopter, doing so as the entity is maintaining surveillance at the village. This is the same position of the fake son in the evening as I documented yesterday. So this is P.O.C. This is families of mentally ill people. They give birth to the mentally ill. They go undiagnosed. They engage in criminal activity as a way of life, and that's the entity that's going to be prosecuted systematically as well. It is currently 7:33 a.m. This is P.O.C. License 9 Edward Xavier Victor 732. P.O.C. That's Union Pacific, that's gang. Alrighty, it is currently 7:43 a.m. This is just another reminder. While I'm documenting heavy stalking, this is something that someone who was not husband material left a woman, any woman, because it didn't even have to be someone that you're supposedly interested in. This is leaving a human being subject to this to fend for themselves when you're aware of it. And you also, not only did Jason Fields do that, he found it funny. He's a demon, okay? So this is the state that he is in when he's engaging in this years ago, and leaving someone for years to be subject to it and discover it on their own, which is exactly what happened. I'm not by myself. The Lord is with me, and the Lord showed me those who are to be cut out of my life, and it includes Jason Fields. And so that is speaking to what is already conclusive, what has already been decreed, and what is not going to be turned over. There is no rebuttal from some demon, from some sex offender, from some stalker, from some sex partner who is literally a spouse to my relative. Do you understand how demonic that is? That is literally what Satan wants. Family members marrying each other and having sex with each other and having sex with multiple family members. Jason Fields is mentally ill. He's a pervert. Okay, so this is somebody that is engaging in that pattern of conduct, and I just want to let you know, because those that are speaking things, and this is relevant to not being deceived when you are on the venue of the internet, where you should not be getting advice on your life anyway, with regard to what this world has to say. All manner of demonic doctrines are out here, and that's what I mean. So if you are out and just accepting anybody's advice and it's not biblically sound, they're just throwing out what they think based on their experiences, and it sounds so wise because it ended up well for them, so they say. And even if that is the case, that does not mean that it is within God's will at all, or let alone his plan for you. This is an entity that is operating all outside of the bounds of Scripture, and then state that God is blessing that. You're literally giving out the doctrine of demons. And that's what's all over the internet. And that's what's gang stalking me, not only relevant position, but also targeting on the venue of the internet. While they're obsessing over me, they also want to claim ownership and responsibility for my content. You don't even serve Christ. He didn't give you this insight. He didn't give you this enlightenment at all. And you can't even explain what it is that you're talking about while you try to listen to me. You don't even know what is the significance of what I'm saying and why I'm saying it. All right? They're parrots. And that's why when you leave them on their own, outside of what is sitting up and monitoring me, that is stalking, watching, studying, and vagina monitoring as well, that's not going to give you the answer, because you can't get this by gang stalking somebody, and you're not going to. In fact, you're going to be committed. So I just want you to be clear, those of you that have been engaged in studying, and if you think that this is like, it's not like before, you keep on gang stalking and monitoring, you're going to be committed. All right, that's literally the evidence of somebody that's an unstable stalker that refuses. Oh, you think you're going to refuse to stop stalking somebody? You're going to be committed. You're not stealing anybody's idea. You cannot. And not only that, you're not going to do it without anybody knowing that you're delusional, and you will find out that you will end up committed. Okay, that's the P.O.C. And the reason why you're talking about I'm talking about the same type of punishment, prison, commitments, is because it's the same spirit. That's why. If it were a different type of crime, you would talk about, oh, this is what you're doing. They're all engaged. This is monitoring. Monitoring that's happening on various levels. Monitoring that's happening online. Monitoring that's happening while the entity is physically stalking. Okay, monitoring that's happening, and then the entity engages in crimes such as poisoning you while they're stalking and monitoring you, stealing your intellectual property while they're stalking and monitoring you, harassing you while they're stalking and monitoring you as you're documenting it, etc., etc. But this is why. This is the same mentally ill spirit that is obsessively stalking because you want to be me. You need to literally be committed for that, and that's what's going to happen. You keep looking for something that you're not going to find, and what you're going to find is yourself in a straitjacket. I am not exaggerating. You've been warned over and over and over again. This is the P.O.C., and I also want to be clear, somebody that is mentally ill like Jason, that abnormal level of being particularly cold-blooded, and that's fine because that was, I don't need Jason filled. I don't need any person, obviously. The Lord God is on my side, but that was a test. Him and everyone else in my life failed. And the Lord God is also testing people, and you're looking at a population of demons, they all failed. But these people failed. There will be no reconciliation with somebody that had anything to do with this, and that is of my own free will. I would not ever. You will not be rewarded. I don't care about how sorry you are. That's absolutely irrelevant. You're being sorry. Is it making the gang stalking stuff? Can you undo sleeping outside for 8 years? Can you undo having anal sex with my mother? Can you? Oh, you don't like to talk about that part. But the tarot card readers, I think that that's funny. Those demons, those monitoring spirits, these so-called prophets, you know P-R-O-P-H-E-T. You're just out for a P-R-O-F-I-T. You're not a prophet of God. You're not. Okay? You're totally contradicting scripture. And not only that, to even suggest that a reconciliation is going to happen with anyone that I formerly knew, that I intentionally cut off because they were trying to kill me. That's a spirit. They're monitoring, and they are speaking the wishes and fantasies of these demons that are trying to flood and control in the spirit, which they can't. So all they're doing is monitoring. They're just stalking in the spirit, and that's what tarot card readers are picking up. It's not going to happen, though. They're picking up their fantasies. They're picking up their wishes. They're picking up what they're burning sage to and talking out loud. They're psychotic. They're not picking up reality, and of course you cannot. You don't have authority, and no tarot card reader is a prophet of God. They're not picking up anything that has to do with what is the will of God. And you're monitoring. So you're talking about Satan, that is a liar. Mixing in certain details that are true with what are lies, which is unreliable, and it is entirely outside of what is God's will in the first place. And that is what is so triggering and so bombastic about the suggestion that somebody that was having sex with my mother, and by the way, the jury is still out, very much likely still having sex with Tracy Banks, and which is disgusting on any day of the week. Under any circumstances. If you think you're going to come around and apologize to me, I'm sorry that I had sex with your mom. I'm sorry that I had oral sex with her. I'm sorry that I know what her vagina looks like, and that we were having sex in your room. We were having sex in your car. We were having sex while you were sleeping. If you think there's going to be a conversation, you're psychotic. This is sad. It's beyond pathetic. It is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Please spare me. There will be no conversation. I don't want to know anything about your disgusting practices with your very much at threat genitalia if it's not already burning. I don't care. That is the least of my concerns. I don't even associate with Tracy Banks. I'm not associating with you when you were associating your genitalia with her. This is a sex cult. So this is literally guilt by association, guilt by sex. They're having sex with each other, you're targeting me. They're part of this sex cult. So this is an entity that's engaging in that, and Jason Fields is a monitoring demon. So just also to let you know, this is very basic common sense. First of all, kingdom spouse, this is not scriptural. This is nowhere in the Bible. Kingdom spouse is also something that is pushing this doctrine about this idea, which is demonic, that you don't have a choice, you don't have any free will in somebody that you're married. That's not my Lord and Savior that's telling me anything like that. And moreover, somebody that doesn't even know Christ, somebody that is guilty of targeting me. My nude body that I would never put on the internet. And you're a sex offender. You've studied my nude body. You think I'm going to have a conversation with you? Are the tarot card readers, by the way, are they picking that part up? Oh, no. They're not picking that up, the stuff that Jason doesn't want to talk about. They're not picking up the part that he's having gay sex. They're not picking up the part that he is engaged in what is having sex with this old woman that was my fake mother. They're not picking that up. They're just picking up, oh, he's a kingdom spouse and you're going to be reunited. That's not going to happen. And that's why, again, tarot card readers, they're leaving out the absurdity of that notion when they're forgetting about the fact that he was having sex with this 60-year-old woman. That's my mom, which is demonic. Yeah, they're leaving that part out. And these are so-called prophets as well. I just want to be a fake prophet is a tarot card reader that just doesn't use cards in front of you. They're very much stalking and monitoring in the spirit. They're not getting any messages. God isn't telling them. When they say, oh, God is telling me, no. What they're saying is, well, I'm sitting up monitoring the children of God. That's how God is telling you. God, because you're sitting up monitoring them. You're stalking in the energy. That's not a prophet. And you're also not a prophet while you're talking about things that are absolutely demonic, that are literally testing my gag reflexes, where you are not even speaking the 100% truth regarding what is having sex with someone's relative, and while you maintain free will to have absolutely nothing to do with someone who is still the reason why you're being targeted to date. How are you ever? That is not a kingdom spouse is not biblical, and that is not someone that you marry. Okay, so I'm just going to speak the truth because these are things that are on the internet and people are getting caught up in demonic doctrines. Twin flame, none of this stuff is scriptural. None of it is godly, and it's deceptive. And the reason why they do it is because it seduces your psyche. It seduces your idea, meaning you like the idea of being a match with someone that is quote unquote for you, destined to be with you. This is what these demons that are engaging in surveillance in the United States and on the internet monitoring you are using to target you, while you're romanticizing the idea of a monitoring spirit. That's the notion of a twin flame, a monitoring spirit. Okay, there is nothing that is godly about monitoring me. There is nothing godly about violating my privacy. There is nothing that is romantic about keeping me under surveillance and stalking me in order to steal from me. But literally, you're violating my privacy. If I were to go on, well, not a date, but if I were to hang out with someone that I'm going to befriend or thinking about befriending, or just hanging out with a friend of mine, and I did not invite him into my bedroom to see me, my vagina, me nude, but you're talking about this is a kingdom spouse who's monitoring you and is violating your privacy, literally spiritually raping you. That is not romantic. That is not godly. That is literally Satan. Okay? That's not romantic. That is not a kingdom spouse. These are demonic doctrines. None of it is found in scripture. It is totally unfounded. And moreover, the fact that I am disgusted, that's the test. I'm not doing it, period. Because I said so. It's not happening. All you have to do is have sex with Tracy one time and you're out. All you have to do is gang stalk me one time and you're out. There's no apologizing and undoing that. Unless you were sleeping outside for 8 years, there's nothing to talk about. You were having sex with Shanita, my chubby, jealous fake friend. You were having sex with my mom while they're all having sex with the same people. They're all mentally ill. Those are demons and they're perverts. And there is no demon that is violating my privacy, which I cherish and have a right to. Why? So I'm not supposed to be fornicating I'm not supposed to be having sex outside of marriage, but yet you're monitoring me and you're keeping my vagina under surveillance. Tell me how that works. You're a sex offender. How does that work? How does that work? It will never happen. These are demons, and these are demons that are very desperate and very pathetic. Jason Fields is a monitoring spirit. He's a sex offender that is still engaging what is harassing. I'm going to prosecute him, and if this mentally ill sex offender ever comes near me, you're all going to witness a prosecution that's underway on the internet, just like is now. I'm documenting him, prosecuting him now. If this fool actually comes around me, and you're doing so why? Oh, you're doing so why because we're supposed to be together? You're going to be committed. You're an obsessed, delusional stalker. You're going to be committed. This is the P.O.C, but I just want to break that down for you. That is not within the Lord God's will. That's totally demonic. You're talking about romanticizing monitoring spirits. The Bible talks about not getting into divination, not practicing witchcraft, and that's what these fake prophets are promoting. And they do that while they're targeting you. And they do that with regard to what is supposed to deceive and distract you, because Satan is trying to exploit what is your desire to be with someone, and Satan thinks that you will fall for that. Satan thinks that you are willing to, or even if, unwittingly, if you're ignorant about what the Word of God says, and even if you are not ignorant about what the Word of God says, meaning you know that it's not scriptural, you know that that doesn't make any sense with regard to your knowledge of the Word of God, you know that the Lord God is not prompting that, that's not what you're getting led to, but you like the way that that sounds, you like the idea of it, you really want that person or something like that, and you go toward that, that's your destruction. That's a trap. That is the enemy. All right, this is the end. There are people that are calling themselves Christians on the internet, talking about this kingdom spouse nonsense, right? Because I actually am a believer, I'm not, and I don't find it profitable to engage in debates. I'm not going to debate because the Word of God is clear. But you also know them also based on the way they contradict Scripture. So it is, in other words, your responsibility, because when we stand before God, and all of us will, there will not be an excuse. Well, I thought this because they said that, and then you have a responsibility yourself. You have a responsibility. So you are deceived if you allow yourself to be deceived. Period. You've been warned. You've been given, in other words, indication that people lie. Satan, you're talking about this mass demon possession? Okay, so you're not ignorant about the fact that people are seeking to deceive you in many, many ways. And in order to protect yourself from that, from the illusions that are presented to you, you benefit from making sure that you are walking in the truth of the Word of God, walking in His truth, not walking in somebody else's interpretation of that. Anything that is going to facilitate sin, deception, darkness, that which is demonic, and these demons that are living a whole fake lifestyle, a whole fake existence, which is what the P.O.C shows. And they're on the internet. They all have social media platforms. They're also on the internet promoting that which is demonic. While the demons in them tell them that they're perfectly fine and everything is okay, they're even going to heaven after they finish serving in the fake churches that they're in, while they're gang stalking me. Okay? These are monitoring spirits, and the demons in them have them very deceived. Very deceived. This is witchery, all right? That is divination. They're speaking literally about what are monitoring spirits. Monitoring spirits are particularly egregious. These are what are keeping your genitalia under surveillance. A man that is monitoring your genitalia, a man that's violating your privacy, which is sacred, is not your future husband. It's not happening. All right, and so I just want to speak to that. I'm going to speak directly to that demon, and I renounce it in Jesus' name. This is the entity that is lying, and Jason Fields that had anything to do with that. The moment that he engaged in sexual activity with Tracy Banks, the moment that he spoke ill on my word, was when he broke what could have been a promise to him from God. And it is not coming back. It's not going to happen, because it maintains free will, and I said no, and it's not happening. This is the P.O.C. It is currently... Alrighty, the people of the state at 665 West 4th Street, fake sun is over me and the people of the state engaging in surveillance, flying over the top of my head by a white airplane. 7 Charlie Victor James 115, sexual molestation via engineer light. License 6 Xavier 98156 is gang stalking while the entity is maintaining sexual assault and battery. You'll see impossible light moving across the brick wall. This is the entity that is monitoring. These are the mentally ill that are going to be committed while they're engaging in what is gang violence, stalking, monitoring, and furtherance of murder with the government that's flying over my head by planes under the fake sun at what is 8:07, 8:06, 8:05 a.m. It's currently 8:07 a.m. right now. I'm going to take a picture of the license plate at the venue where I'm located. The entity is indeed engaged in what is this psychotic stalking as a community of demons. And I want to be clear, these are demons that give birth to the mentally ill. They come out mentally ill, psychotic, psychopathic is what it is. They're demon possessed when they're born, so they're born cursed. These are demons that are monitoring, so you're prosecuting their criminal activity while they're engaging and monitoring you and stalking you in the demonic environment, doing things such as stalking with light. The supernatural is going to be used to prosecute and diagnose mental illness and have them put in facilities. License 8 Edward Henry Wendy 478, 9 Jerry Paul Larry 161, 7 Kelly Larry 774. License 9 Nancy Frank Apple 572. This is at 4th Street and San Antonio, where the fake sun is moving up what is San Antonio into the city of Upland, not remaining at the Ontario Civic Center, not remaining in Ontario, not going to be over the senior center, where the entity is engaging in that, where you're documenting on an ongoing pattern of conduct, and they are all being prosecuted, identified as an entity that is indeed stalking. And the homosexuals, the sex offenders of the U.S. military, are going to be prosecuted for treason. They're going to be prosecuted as violent sex offenders that are engaging in terrorism with a mentally ill population that is California that's gang stalking. License 6 Victor 0 Uncle 563. This is a P.O.C. You will see that it's currently 8:09 a.m. This is the entity that's repeating that mentally ill behavior, and that's literally what's going to be used to have their children put away, to have them put in facilities involuntarily. They're going to be committed. The entity that's engaging in that, while they engage in even more of it, that is, again, more criminal, psychopathic behavior because of hostility for what you are doing in the first place, which is stalking someone. And you're all holding hands as demons, stalking together. Very mentally ill conduct of a population that is going to be under martial law. 9 Barry Charlie Wendy 075 stalking impossible light. 81905 Yolanda 3 stalking impossible light. 8 James Kelly Henry 943 stalking with impossible light. The entity is engaging what is sexual violence as a community. Sex offenders, again, that's why you're not, it's the pattern of conduct, the prosecution, it builds in how they're going to be treated already. They're sex offenders. They're not keeping children. They're stalking and furtherance of murder. You're doing so as immigrants. This is why the U.S. government permits immigrants into the country. They're being deported. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct while they are conspiring murder and doing so while they're practicing psychopathic practices. And they do so in order to criminally defame you, which is them speaking to the fact that it is absolutely mentally ill what they are doing, and they will be subject to being identified as mentally ill, and they will be subject to also involuntary commitments while they are criminally prosecuting convicted. PHIL 449, Phil 449, P.O.C. This is the fake sun that is over me. I'm going to capture it. Now I'm at Harvard and San Antonio Avenue. This is P.O.C. This is how the demon possessed are stalking together, and the entity that is stalking together is the one that's being prosecuted together. The entity that is going to be isolated from the rest of the American public and identified accordingly together. And they will also be subject to what is being involuntarily committed to facilities, okay? This is the necessity of martial law because of the actor is an entity, and this is the U.S. military. The U.S. military is not only mentally ill, they are unfit to be, this is a means of idolatry, while these are sex offenders that are celebrated on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and they're engaging in the pattern of conduct. So this is speaking to the cult that is the entity that is the United States that's a stalker. So this is breaking down that illusion as well. The entity is no longer going to be confused with that, and they're going to be treated like the sex offenders that they are, not going to be celebrated by any sort of holiday where they're engaging in this criminal activity. The demon possessed that are engaging in terrorism. So they're not to be celebrated, and they won't be celebrated. They're also going to be involuntarily committed. This is P.O.C. It's currently 8:11 a.m. Alrighty, 9DLP603, the one that's threatening yesterday, is the entity that's engaging in this psychotic behavior that you see, stalking me, stalking under a fake sun. and doing so while they're molesting with impossible light, that's what was speaking that she is being committed. This is her engagement in that pattern of conduct as the entity, and you heard everything that that psychopath said, and that's why I recorded, because she is indeed going to be committed. All right? That's the P.O.C. shit. That's prison. But that's no ordinary prison sentence. This is commitment based on what she exhibited as she's being documented engaging in this pattern of conduct. And you are absurdly psychotic while your co-defendants are gang stalking me with you, and she is being committed with that pattern of conduct that she engaged in yesterday under the fake sun with the same U.S. military that's convicting her as they continuously stalk me. And she is no longer stalking in the path conspicuously. She's going to prison for that. She's going to be committed. Don't forget about that while I'm documenting the mental illness right now. That's her mental illness. It's getting locked up. P.O.C. All right, this is documenting sex offenders and terrorists at the local elementary school that is gang stalking with the people of the state that are engaging in sexual assault and battery. All right, I'm going to document by license plate, and I've already captured the fake son. I'm at Bonnie Bray in San Antonio, where the same molestation, the same stalking by the entity is underway. And again, the psychopaths come out of their facilitated videos surfacing out of nowhere on the sidewalk to stalk in the path as I use my phone and took pictures of the street sign, take pictures of the house numbers, take pictures of their license plates. And these are demons of all ages and races. Okay, so they're super old, liver spots and everything, coming out gang stalking in their community. These start out as gang stalking toddlers. This is the mentally ill conduct of a population that are born in this state, mental illnesses of a spirit. And the mentally ill make up a population who are engaging in what is criminal monitoring, and that is the pattern of conduct of the U.S. government that is underway at the local elementary school, and I'm going to prosecute and document sex offenders. This is the P.O.C., and this is literally under law the minor children that are sharing in sexual assault and battery while they are gang stalking with the people of the state and the U.S. government, and that's exactly what they're doing, and that's exactly how it's going to be prosecuted. It's license 7 Nancy Frank Yolanda 041, and it is 8:22 a.m. I'm going to capture this in images. This is what's reflected on the record, P.O.C. All right, the sex offenders of Hawthorne Elementary School are gang stalking with the U.S. military in concert with minor children. That is inclusive of every teacher, every child, every parent that is household represented by the children that are gang stalking. You will see the fake sun hovering over me at the signage where it is very clear that I'm being targeted by an elementary school full of minors who are demons and who are gang stalking while the people of the state are engaging in the egregious act of stalking with impossible light, and they are monitoring in the same exact manner ceaselessly with the people of the state that include their minor children, who will be prosecuted and identified as the terrorists that they are and the equally threatening entity that they are with the U.S. military. Alrighty, this is the P.O.C. It's 8:26 a.m. Alrighty, it's currently 8:30 a.m. and you will see the entity stalking, including license 9 Sam Xavier Larry 228 under the fake sun. They were creeping on the grounds of the school, drove through the parking lot, and now engaged in what is stalking in the path in front of what is facilitating venue. What is a facilitator? I don't see a house number over here. Doing so, this is facilitating venue that's sharing in surveillance while the people of the state are doing so. It is, if I can see a house number, I don't see one. I want to document, but I'll go ahead and document the license plate, 42372 Bob 1. And I don't see any house number. Oh, at 1406 Cypress Avenue. Okay, so the entity, and I'll go ahead and get the fake sun over that. This is where you'll see an orange. Oh, took a picture of it right now. They were stalking in the path, driving in slow motion. This is the entity that's engaging in surveillance and blocking your path while they know that you're documenting them. The fake sun is what you'll see over me while I'm at the Hawthorne Elementary School. Okay, this is I don't want to say thick because thick has a good connotation. This is a chunky, overweight Latina female, red top, Levi shorts, stalking with license 9 Sam Xavier Larry 228. This is a stalker that then has access to minor children. These are the demons that are gang stalking with their demonic children as well. And Hawthorne Elementary School is gang stalking and furtherance of murder. Hawthorne Elementary School is a facility regarding surveillance. That's the whole purpose of secondary school in the United States, where minor children are engaging in surveillance. It's just somewhere for the target individual to be kept all day long. all right, to be under surveillance all day long by demons that surround them. And Hawthorne Elementary School is engaged in the pattern of conduct. While the fake sun's over me at this sign, I walk on that side of the street. I'm on the opposite side of the street. You'll see the fake sun over me right now. Up on the opposite side of the street where that large Hawthorne Elementary School sign is, which is speaking to that elementary school and those children and those demon-possessed gang-stalking teachers engaging in what is surveillance while that fake sun is targeting me, and so is the U.S. military by that school, okay? The entity that's engaged in this ongoing sexual violence, terrorism, stalking with all this light, so are the demon-possessed gang-stalking children. They share in that. They share in terrorism, and they're also sharing in that as a school, which is the speaking to the school district, which is speaking to the community, which is speaking to the city, which is speaking to the state. All right? That's the entity that's engaging that. It's currently 8:32 a.m. And those are also a part of those that are being prosecuted for terrorism. And they're the entity that's gang stalking over and under majority is going to be prosecuted under the law. P.O.C. It is, like I stated, 8:32 a.m. All right, just as a reminder, it is 8:32 a.m. like I just stated. I am in Fontana, California at Spring Street and Sierra facing Fontana Lewis Library under the fake sun, where the people of the state and demons that are gang stalking and furtherance of murder that are at an elementary school and their teachers and the school itself are engaging in the pattern of conduct, and they're sharing in what are mentally ill behavior. They share in mental illness, they share in criminal activity, they share in public corruption, while the U.S. military is engaging in levying war against an American citizen in the United States by the existence. And in Fontana, California, that is also proof. It's 8:32 a.m. right now. It's now 8:34 a.m. The fake sun is remaining over me while I'm already in Fontana, and then on video I capture the fake sun over me in Fontana, California at Spring Street and Sierra, where the evidence also shows the fake sun remained there. That's how I'm able to capture it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and at 6 o'clock in the evening, and then you're so on and so forth with regard to what the entity did just last night with the fake sun remaining in Ontario. All right, this is the Hawthorne Elementary School is a picture regarding what the state of California, what the city of Ontario is engaging in, what the people of the state, what's wrong with them, and what they're doing. And the sex offenders, the stalkers who are the U.S. military, defiled by homosexuality, which is a product of demon possession, and they are engaging in terrorism by this entity. That includes the minor children who are gang stalkers. It is currently 8:35 a.m. where the fake sun is not in Fontana and over me in Ontario at San Antonio and Cypress. Now I'm at San Antonio and Ladini, okay, where that fake sun is over me. And I'll take a picture of that. This is P.O.C. All right, if you'll recall my documentation, when Chino police were stalking, that was hours from now. It's currently 8:38 a.m. Chino police were stalking me on the street where the people of the state are engaged in ongoing just open terrorism, which they regret their demons. So the people that are going to be prosecuted identify the entity that's going to be accountable entirely will regret it when they see themselves documented and described by those that are sitting in courtrooms with regard and how they're going to be treated under the law. And that includes Chino police. While I'm at 6th Street and San Antonio right now, Chino police are crossing paths, engaging in the sex offense as well, doing so with the homosexuals that are stalking of the U.S. military, that are stalking in these vehicles as well, participating in the demonic pattern of conduct, where they're engaging in mentally ill behavior, not any effective witchcraft. But that is the purpose in the demented minds of the homosexuals of the U.S. military. So they're getting into Hondas, they're getting into Yukons, they're getting into Toyotas, and they are engaging what is pacing along with all these welfare collecting, gang stalking neighbors throughout the community, sharing in the pattern of conduct and failed witchcraft. The U.S. military is going to be subject to involuntary commitments, and this is something that's going to be known because it's speaking to the response of the federal government by the entity that levied war in the United States against an American citizen, which is levying war against the United States, period. And so involuntary commitments is no HIPAA matter. And the entity is engaging in what is violating our privacy, so that's an illusion in the first place. And it's an act of war, and it's being responded to by justice, which is speaking to that prosecution. But the entity is nonetheless I just want to remind you about who's engaging in this psychotic behavior while the entity's taking turns stalking with light, just like what you saw inside of the Walmart. This is what they're engaging in, stalking. All they're doing is stalking. The fake sun's moving next to me, and it's not even sunlight while they're engaging in that. They're stalking back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth, while I'm documenting their kids that are going to be prosecuted, that are going to be diagnosed, they're going to be treated accordingly. All right, these are unstable children that grow up to be murderers. They're already sex offenders. They're aware of adult genitalia that they keep under surveillance. They're stalking adults. This is what the minors are doing. And they're engaging in what is stalking under a fake sun in the U.S., which is how the people of the state raise them, train them. The government trains them. And the entities engaging in this conduct where Chino police were gang stalking at this same location under the fake sun. And I captured that on video. And this is why the entity engages in very foolish conduct, because you're stalking me right now. And when you're long gone, have forgotten about it because you're psychotic, I'm prosecuting you. So you're the only one that's crying. What are you crying for in court? You're going to prison. All right. What are you scared about? You chose to go into that, and you had reason to understand that's probably not a good idea. The entity's doing so. This is the same street where I'm being molested and gang stalked. Chino police was stalking on the same street hours from right now, intentionally targeting in a Chino police vehicle. Okay. That's the P.O.C. because you're getting all of that. You're getting the malice, you're getting the intent, you're getting knowledge while the entity's engaging in that in the environment with the psychos that are stalking right now in the morning with impossible light. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that. You can hear the freeway behind me. This is where I was at. I was at 6th Street on San Antonio, where Chino police were crossing path under the fake sun that's speaking to what's not over Chino, anywhere in Chino, where the Chino police were gang stalking me in the city of Chino as a matter of record. It's currently 8:42 a.m. Alrighty, I just want to document where you see on the 10 freeway bridge where I'm located on San Antonio, the entity leaving vehicles parked there. The entity is engaging in what is stalking in the path. The entity is engaged in monitoring, and it is a means of activity creation to leave vehicles, whether they're in them or not. While the fake sun is remaining over me, it's a means of occupying space. As I've shown you in doorways, as I've shown you where the entity UTILIQuest, it was California Highway Patrol before, the entity maintaining psychopathic pacing, light activity while you are crossing, and that's the fake sun that's over me now in Upland, which is how you know what diversified landscaping is engaging in, which is stalking, all right? And they're engaging in that with light activity while the people that stay on the 10 freeway, okay, is engaging in the pattern of conduct. That's the entity that's through a mass amount of people engaging in surveillance on the freeway, which is the entity that's engaging in the inhumane system of surveillance without the knowledge and consent of the American people outside of the Constitution. And then you have the fact that the government's doing it with the very constituents, the people of the state. 9 CCU 663 is included. All right, diversified landscape company, they're the ones that are gang stalking out the 10 freeway on 7th Street and Euclid. And I'm on San Antonio where that fake sun is deviating. That's also evidence that diversified landscape company is stalking, okay? That fake sun that is remaining over me while you're focusing on the ground, which with regard to what is staring at something that's near me, while that fake sun moves over me while you're crossing path. And that's diversified landscape company that's going to be prosecuted. This is the pattern of conduct. You will see the fake sun while a demon gets out and is maintaining presence. 96003 Apple 4. And I'm going to capture that fake sun right now. It's 8:45 a.m. where the fake sun's remaining in Ontario yesterday. It doesn't matter how much you stare at a piece of paper and lick your fingers, like you can look as focused as you want. Be focused on being prosecuted, because that's what's going to happen. I'm going to show you the fake sun right here. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, that is the, I'm gonna go ahead and get the picture of this license plate that I already recited, but I'm gonna get a visual of it. That's a good workout. The entities, maintaining, hold on, I did not get that license plate, let me get it. I read it, but I want a visual of it so I can have it on the record. So I don't have to rewind the tape again to get it. Okay, it is Yeah, 96003A4. Alrighty, I think I'm still recording. Yes, I'm recording. I'm just getting an image of the license plate. The fake sun is present. Diversified Landscape Company is engaging in its role. That's the fake sun over the grocery store where they're engaged in surveillance. That's the fake sun aboard Omnitrans while it's moving in real time, the most ridiculous pattern of conduct. That's the fake sun that's sitting over the city hall, over the top of my head. And the entity's keeping the fake sun at 12:49 p.m. It's over me at the Ovid Family Community Library. And I'm in Upland right now. And I'm approaching Upland rather. I'll be in Upland in a second. I'm walking up the street. So the fake sun there's only one. So it's the fake sun that's going to be over me at 12:49 p.m. inside of the Upland Public Library, correct? And that's speaking to everybody that I document, including Hawthorne Elementary School and a whole bunch of gang stalkers that are under the age of majority that are engaging in surveillance by virtually being in school where that pattern of conduct is underway. As I show you that, there's nothing changing while I'm being gang stalked at that elementary school. This is the entity that's engaging in nothing other than surveillance, and they're psychopaths while Diversified Landscape Company exhibits that. The gang stalking and doing so obsessively, this is devotion. This is a demon also. This is mental illness. They're going to be committed by virtue of this commitment, this devotion to it. They're going to be committed by it, with it, okay? But the pattern of conduct is speaking to what is the entity that's gang stalking, and the entity's pattern of conduct with regard to the malicious engagement in it. And the malice doesn't speak to intelligent or elite, all right? It's just malicious because they're engaging in a manner that the ordinary person is deceived by, is ignorant about. And that's because you assume because AT&T is outside of your house digging in the sidewalk outside of your home, that they have a right to do that because they are AT&T and they have access to that concrete under the ground, which is where you live. But they're doing it under a fake sun that's remaining over you all day long, which you're not aware of. They're doing it while the government is engaging in surveillance, aerial surveillance, while the government is monitoring you inside of your private space, which is your home. And AT&T is engaging what is stalking, conspicuous surveillance by keeping a vehicle with light activity in front of your home, digging into the ground in relevant position that is gang stalking you while they don't have to talk to you. They're maintaining conspicuous surveillance in the path, doing so while they are on the sidewalk, which again, under this malicious system, is quote unquote on public property, not on your private property. That's an illusion, and they're going to be prosecuted for that. That's exactly how the pattern of conduct is underway, including while I am traveling from place to place, and these are the corporate actors that are sharing in that pattern of conduct. The entity does the same thing where your gang stalking neighbors even call AT&T, and AT&T comes, engages in the pattern of conduct under the guise of business that was solicited. They didn't come on their own, of their own volition. They came because they were requested. And it's the same exact malicious pattern of conduct. And this is the entity that's going to be federally prosecuted. They are mentally ill while they engage in that. And the whole purpose is to gang stalk you. It does not matter that the machine is out of order. The entity is maintaining that environment. And you are a whole psychopath that is going to be subject to what is a public means of diagnosing your mental illness so that it's public information. All right, this department, this city, this state has been identified. That's how the record is going to reflect it, so that it is not any sort of secret or mystery with regard to where the mentally ill dwell and what they have committed as an act of war against an American citizen in any state within the United States. It is currently 8:50 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, just a brief note. Amazon Prime is gang stalking me on this same street as well, where Chino police were targeting. This is when I was walking up the same San Antonio Avenue. Hours later from now, and Amazon Prime is gang stalking via its business, gang stalking and targeting through the delivery of its packages, of provision of its services, while it's simultaneously engaging in federal group stalking, monitoring, and furtherance of murdering an American citizen. They're doing so at 222 San Antonio Avenue, targeting while in front of me with light activity, doing so while I'm documenting Amazon. Alrighty, it is currently 11:11 a.m. and what you'll see reflected in the images regarding gang stalking. The defendants, Elizabeth, Kiki, Alan, Carissa. These are the state actors at the Upland Public Library who are subject to federal prison at the outset. Okay, so the documentation is getting to the entity that is stalking, and with regard to what you remember what I'm documenting yesterday at this time, I'm at Walmart. Okay, I'm outside at 10:01 a.m. The fake sun is over me, and I'm reminding you about what's not over Adam Tuckerman or anybody over the Upland Public Library while it's over me in Ontario at 1333 North Mountain Avenue. This is the entity that's engaging in what is stalking in the path while I remain in that parking lot. Fake sun remains over me in that parking lot, which is in a different city. That's where the entity that you also know, that's exactly where the fake sun was, because that's where the entity was stalking by planes. Engaging in what is providing that evidence against the entity, which includes Walmart. That is a domestic terrorist, just like the city of Upland is, and just like the Upland Public Library and the employees who are subject to prison. The entity that is stalking on the roads and the highways, as I am in Ontario yesterday at this time, not in Upland. This is speaking to the entity that is framed with science in order to prosecute and prove the malicious pattern of conduct by the U.S. government that is maintaining a scientifically impossible environment pursuant to what is targeting, and you can visibly witness and prove targeting in that environment where the supernatural is characterizing the mental illness of those that are stalking together as an entity maliciously. Okay, and preferably they prefer to do it silently. So they do it as a population, and they're supposed to be strangers. This is the entity that's engaged in surveillance. And the entity that is engaging in what is stalking in Ontario is the entity that is stalking in the bathroom. And the entity specifically wants you to know that they are interested in sending children, and they're interested in sending the developmentally challenged who are equally demon possessed. So while that's what they did, engaging in what is sending in a sex offender who is developmentally challenged, and I just want to be clear, that's an illusion. Demon possession over one that demon is manifesting in that regard, as I've already discussed on this podcast, and Carissa is equally mentally ill. Okay, one is developmentally challenged, the other is equally demon possessed, and Carissa is psychopathic. Okay, while she conducts herself as though she's not monitoring my vagina, that she's not a stalker, that she's not mentally ill, that she's not a criminal, all of the existence regarding her fake life and lifestyle and the pattern of conduct with a whole entity. So understand the malice of what the government is doing with the demon-possessed population. Okay, so the entity, so that's first of all shattering that first level of the illusion, sending in a developmentally challenged third party who is engaged in the sex offense on behalf of that entity, and that is never going to be a distraction away from the sun that's over me in Ontario. And there is no way, that's exactly what I took a picture of before I walked into the bathroom, which is going to put a sex offender such as Carissa in prison for engaging in what is ongoing sexual violence before the public, in concert with the public, in furtherance of psychological torture of a sexually violent nature, in furtherance of murder with the U.S. military who are stalking me in an entirely different city while she is working in an adjacent city under a fake sun, in furtherance of murdering me. Okay, she's doing that while this entity sends in the developmentally challenged in order to engage in vagina monitoring. And this is understanding the significance of the demon possessed that are also minor children that are also demon possessed. They know who they're targeting, and they know that they understand the significance when they go into the bathroom to execute the sex offense. And that's exactly what the entity engaged in, sitting in a developmentally challenged third party who was equally demon possessed. Under the law, I'm getting into details and understanding how the demon possessed are operating. And this is getting to how they are distinct from healthy, normal, safe human beings, and how the demon possessed are operating, and how they are mixing in what is the illusion that they're maintaining, and also the ways in which they are engaging in that pattern of conduct. And it shows you how they are exploiting children, abusing them, exploiting the mentally, what we are recognizing as mentally ill, because they're all mentally ill. They're all demons. They're all engaging in the identical mentally ill pattern of conduct. They're all under a fake sun. They're all psychopathic, all of them. But with regard to the illusion, as you understand it, mentally ill is recognized when you see a developmentally challenged person or someone that can't form their words correctly. They're perhaps spitting on themselves. They're very, very dirty. They smell. They are one that is struggling with the ability to function in everyday life. Okay, so that's a product of demon possession as well. It's just manifesting in a different way. The demon that is reporting to work at the Upland Public Library and is conducting themselves necessarily so as though none of the pattern of conduct is happening is psychopathic and equally demon possessed. That psychopathic disorder, which is also very real, is another manifestation of the same mental illness. Okay, so the entity sends in the developmentally challenged third party who was a sex offender and who was engaged in monitoring vagina. And abusers are sending in developmentally challenged and children to engage in sex acts as the entity. And Carissa's going to federal prison, whether she went in there, whether she sends in her gang stalking significant other, whether the
those that are like OPARC, that's what OPARC is engaged in. And anthesis, that's the abuse that I've documented. That's what they're doing, sending in a third party like that, which is reflective of their mental illness. Everything that the entity is doing is reflecting on them. Leaving fecal matter on the floor in the bathroom, this is reflective of how filthy that they are, not just personally, but mentally, psychologically, to engage in the pattern of conduct and the enraged, ongoing, irrational emotions that they demonstrate while they're incessantly stalking me, for example, by helicopters and with impossible light. This is how people that are not human behave, and they are all mentally ill. That's why they're under the fake sun that is over the Upland Public Library. And then as I walked around that library, that fake sun moved. As you can see it through the different windows in the ceiling, in the roof of the library. And I'm in a different city yesterday. I captured my presence in Ontario, and the fake sun is over me on video at 12:49 p.m. So yesterday, I am traveling from Ontario at the Walmart at 5th Street and Mountain Avenue, and then I arrive returning to the Ovid Family Community Library, and this is the entity that's clearly engaging in targeting while the government's engaging in the pattern of conduct under that fake sun. They're doing so while they are monitoring the evidence, and while they monitor the evidence. So this is exactly what they decided to do. I took a picture of the fake sun. I took a picture of the stalkers that come inside with children to engage in stalking, and they use those children to monitor me. The adult is monitoring as well, doing so under the guise, oh, I'm tutoring this child, oh, I'm bringing in my baby and reading them a story, and they're learning the ABCs. We're all doing a sing-along. They're stalking and monitoring with children. And these children are demon-possessed, meaning they're mentally ill, and they are used to stalk me with noise, to engage in what would on the surface be acceptable regarding making noise, regarding running around, pacing, doing so under the fake sun, and they are mentally ill. This is undiagnosed mental illness by those under the age of majority. Whereas you're looking at those that are, for example, developmentally challenged, and they've been clearly diagnosed because of what is their obvious manifestation of what is actually a spiritual condition. So, and it's demonic. So I just want to get to the malice behind the state actors that include Alan, Carissa, Elizabeth, and Kiki, and Brianna, who are all engaging in the pattern of conduct with the U.S. government, who opened up the library with them. The entity amplified plain activity, and then the Upland Public Library, these demons that are all going to prison, opened up the doors, and the demons that are engaging in surveillance sitting in here, then they all paced by walking inside together under the fake sun at 10 o'clock, which I've already documented at 10 o'clock. And you know that yesterday in Ontario, the fake sun was over me at 1333 North Mountain Avenue. That is a prosecution of every state employee, which is what the Upland Public Library employees are, and that's a basis of federal prison while they're systematically engaging in that. And the city of Upland, the state of California, the people of the state, the U.S. military are engaging in what are abusing those that are developmentally challenged, abusing children while they're gang stalking with them, and that's how they're going to be prosecuted. Businesses are going to be prosecuted as well. This is just showing how unethical. This is showing how criminal. This is showing how malicious. This is showing how harmful that they are while they're engaging in that, because obviously I'm not developmentally challenged. It's not, but it's the principle of the matter, and that's going on the record, all the ways in which they're engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct and exhibiting with regard to corporate entities and public entities. It's showing the malice, and it's showing the level of corruption. And with regard to the people of the state, these are the ones that want you to see them as normal human beings, the demons themselves, the individuals that make up that entity, that are the mask of the public entity itself. And you are able to see what are the demon possessed, who are all a population that make up the mentally ill, who are maintaining an entire comprehensive surveillance system with which they engage in using the minor children, and they engage in using those that are understood within the illusion created by this entity for its own purposes, mentally ill in an obvious manner, such as they suffer from Tourette's syndrome, they've got Down syndrome, they some sort of obvious outward extroverted means of recognizing, this person is suffering from a condition in one way or another, and that's presenting an illusion. They are all engaging in the pattern of conduct. They're all demons. They're all under a fake sun. That supernatural feature of the pattern of conduct is letting you know the truth of that statement and the illusion regarding mental illness. And that's exactly what Satan needs to cloak himself amongst an entity. Alrighty, I just want to document that that's what they sent into the bathroom to engage in vagina monitoring, and they're all doing so under the fake sun that is remaining over me. It is currently 11:21 a.m. These are indeed sex offenders, and so are the U.S. military, who are also mentally ill. These are psychopaths that join the military. These are psychopaths that join in, for example, law enforcement to commit criminal activity. I just want to make sure that you understand. The United States is engaged in nothing other than surveillance. So the United States and what it represents, especially on the international stage, while it is engaging in surveillance with the rest of the world, is maintaining the illusion as being the free world leader. That's an illusion. They are not. In fact, I'm documenting, proving that. And neither is the rest of the world interested in that, while they permit the United States to take that lead internationally. While they actually do fight and they do engage in war, these are demons that are actually fighting for positions regarding who's the biggest bully and who's going to control. But they're all serving the same interests. If you go to any other part of the world, they're engaging in surveillance. And you will see the fake sun. You will see that pattern of conduct. The entities engaging in this P.O.C. in the U.S. and maintaining an illusion, an unconstitutional one, and I'm prosecuting it. It's also inhumane, which is a violation of my constitutional rights as well. But I just want to speak to the entity is maintaining surveillance, and how are you doing that amongst what is the illusion of a so-called civilized society? You build public libraries. You maintain the children in a school system. You keep what are the public venues, such as the city hall, where you will maintain city employees. You maintain the system of surveillance itself under the guise of being emergency services in that city that's maintaining surveillance, where they're engaging in that pattern of conduct as the fire department that's engaging in surveillance, as the police department that's engaging in surveillance, as the ambulance services that are engaging in surveillance with the people of the state, including while they utilize that as a means of surveillance. And this is what you're getting to many of the illusions talking, referring to. You've had the police called on you for no reason. Even those that are in positions of judgeships, if you've seen that on the news before, African Americans of elite positions engaging in what is, or experiencing rather, what is having the police called on them. And then the police, again, this is serving an illusion. It's an illusion. That was fake. In other words, it was fake, what you witnessed on the news. This is the entity that's maintaining the surveillance system in order to maintain that illusion. So this is a demon, in other words, a product, that the entity that's engaged in surveillance, having an African-American judge subject to the system of, I had the police called on me and I had to correct them because obviously the police didn't know that it was a judge. They're serving an illusion. The police didn't know that they were a judge, and they didn't learn that until they encountered them and asked them for their ID. And then that judge was able to correct that situation. And then it's on the news regarding how spectacularly improper, how surprising, how appalling that is. That is serving an illusion regarding the fact that the police, who are engaging in surveillance of everyone in concert with the constituents who are the people of the state. And that is speaking to what is an unconscious means of maintaining the narrative, maintaining not just a narrative, but maintaining what is an illusion that the police are not engaging in. They are not only engaged in surveillance, they know who you are on the roads and the highways, because this is not just surveillance that I'm proving and prosecuting with tangible evidence regarding the use of technology. They're demons that are monitoring. This is spiritual. So they know exactly who you are. And those demons are equipped with positions and technology to engage in what is surveillance in the physical as well as in the spiritual. And even technology is a means of spiritually monitoring as well. The devices that we use, absolutely demonic. AI, a product of monitoring, which is spiritual surveillance, meaning your thoughts, what you're thinking are not private. Demons that are aware of what it is that you intend to go. You're at home and you're thinking, I want to go to the mall, I want to go to that store because I want to go buy that black sweater that I really like. And the entity is monitoring you, and they go and that sweater is either, they're monitoring you and they're stalking you en route to wherever it is that you go. And that can unfold in many ways. The sweater won't be there, and that's just because they know you wanted to go get it. And they're monitoring that with regard to just sitting back and watching you and conducting experiments on you and engaging what is psychologically torturing you, unbeknownst to you. You don't know anything about it. You're subject to means of targeted harassment, but to you it's not computing as harassment actually, because you don't know you're being targeted. So when you go to buy something that you want and it was just there and then it's not there, or you go to use your internet in your home and you pay your bill, but it's not working, and it's really It's really frustrating, and this is the brand new phone, brand new service that you just got with Gang Stalker Spectrum or Gang Stalker Frontier. Pick one, anyone, they're all monitoring. And this is something that's happening in your home, and you're consistently having to call them, and they're giving you all manner of excuses about what's going on with the service in the area and repairs that they have planned, and how they have to conduct their own survey and find out what it's all monitoring. All of it is monitoring, and it's a means of frustrating you and your life and whatever efforts for no reason at all. Very often it's just merely because you're under surveillance and they're experimenting on you. They're exploring your mind and how it works when you are encountering obstacles, what it is that you resort to, how do you handle that, what do you think about it, especially those that are anointed by God. They want to see your thought process, they want to see how you operate. And then you're talking about what I represent, knowledge. I know what you're doing, and they've been continuously engaging that for majority of my whole life. I did not know, so they've been engaging in what is ongoing psychotic surveillance, which is monitoring. Demons, a whole population who are spiritually surveilling you, every thought, everything that you want, everything you think about, any person that crosses your mind, which may or may not even be an original thought with you, because that person is a demon and they're injecting themselves into your thought process. And this is the entity where I'm telling you earlier, when you're speaking about this demonic doctrine regarding twin flame, that's all demonic. It's out of hell. All right. This is referring to what are monitoring spirits. Okay, so the Lord God has not called me to be in anybody's spiritual gates. Okay, I'm not soliciting anybody in the spirit, and I'm not sitting up watching them and obsessing over them and studying them. That's a demon. That's Satan, because Satan is a loser. Satan is always following. Satan is not a leader that already has a plan and is executing that based on what God has called them to do. They don't have a purpose. They're sitting here stalking and monitoring you. And the whole purpose of what the demons are doing and the satanic system is to sit up and watch those who are called, who they cannot stop. So they sit up and study and watch, harass, try to kill you, gang stalk you. And this is an entity that's been doing this for years. They cannot engage in and do this to what are the actual chosen people of God. They cannot. So the entity has been engaged in what is murdering people, targeting them, and keeping the secret system of surveillance that I'm exposing. That's international. They've been successfully doing that for centuries, beyond decades, for centuries, since the beginning, well before we had cell phones. So, but the entities engaging in this pattern of conduct against one, that they don't have the spiritual authority to do that, and that is speaking to the very much real reality regarding, first of all, spiritual warfare, but also the fact that things that are happening are not random. Things that are happening are not just permitted to happen, which is also why you shouldn't walk around in fear, contrary to what Satan wants you to do when you're ignorant. That only works on you if you're ignorant. And ignorant about what? The Word of God and who you are in Christ. If you are nothing other than a sinner who is not walking with Christ, who does not walk in the truth of the Word of God, who says one thing, lives another, who reads the Word, walks away and forgets what you look like looking in a mirror, deceiving yourself, you are fully vulnerable. So you're just like the person that sits in church and listens to the message and goes out and continues living in their sinful ways. And this is not to shame anybody. I'm just going to let you know, you don't have any spiritual power. Nothing is there. You've got nothing. You may as well be joining with the demons in the alley, engaging in what is a bunch of group sex rituals and cooing at the fake moon and running around in circles and sparking with light with each other. That's what you might as well do, that, because that's how lacking you are in spiritual authority when you are out here in sin with the rest of the wicked who exercise spiritual power over you and need you to be walking in sin in order to do that. But those that are anointed of God, those are chosen, and those who repent and walk with the Lord God, you are protected. Satan can't touch you. Satan is defeated. The Bible says, submit to God, flee the devil, and he will, paraphrasing. The Bible says if you resist the devil and submit to God. So first you submit to God and resist the devil, and he will flee from you. That's a promise. Okay, so when your submission to God is your protection from the enemy. Your submission to God is also out of love because of who he is. But if for nothing else, if you're not even there yet, because you don't understand or appreciate who he is enough to just love him, I'm just going to be obedient to you because I love you because of who you are. You just do it for your own protection, because that's what's going on out here. Effective spell work is working over demons, people who are susceptible to having spirits. This is why you have Asian women and men who can't even speak my language, but they know who I am. They're monitoring spirits. They're zombies. They're out here stalking and monitoring. Okay? Latino men and women who don't even speak English. They're monitoring me. The demons in them are obsessed with me, and they're stalking me, them and all of their children. You have the developmentally challenged that can't even formulate words. Okay? They have this series of issues that they have, but the demons in them are obsessed with me, and they are monitoring just as effectively as Adam Tuckerman, who was working inside of this library under the fake sun, who was equally mentally ill, by the way. All right, so just letting you know, it's all races, all ages, and the entity is engaging in that, and there is no distinction amongst them. The entity is using carnal, fleshly ideas and circumstances in order to deceive you, to distract you. This is why I said it's not about race, it's not about age, it's not about your socioeconomic status. While Satan wants you to be focused on getting your bag and making sure you have plenty of females or plenty of dudes, you're a sugar baby or you're a pimp, whatever you think that is, those are people that are walking around with burning genitalia and who hate the reflection in the mirror because of the ways in which they've used their body as a porta potty. Everybody's had a turn. Everybody knows what it looks like in your pants. That's not sexy. It's not cute. And it's perverted. And these are demons that are engaging in that because they practice witchcraft, because they're in darkness, because they are children of the devil. They engage in that which the Bible says not to do. And they do that as a lifestyle, and they're doing that as monitoring spirits. And they want you down there in the pit right with them. And you need to understand you're behaving as dogs do when you do that. So that's like not understanding that the people that you're looking at, they're all a bunch of dogs that try to dress up in costumes to look like you. And all the people that are dogs, you only think that they're people because they're wearing people costumes. These dogs are telling you to do what they do. Bark like me, foam at the mouth like me, go around biting people everywhere like me, be an unruly dog like me, go around peeing on hydrants and on trees like me, go around sniffing everything like me. In other words, go around behaving like a dog even though you're a person. And you need to do that because that's actually cool. You're not a man or you're not a woman unless you behave like that. And you're listening to dogs. They're not even humans. And they're getting you to behave as a human like a dog. And you're thinking that they're like you because they're trying to behave like you and assimilate to you. You, who, by the way, are also called of God, and you are over animals. We have dominion over them, and you're out here acting like them while they're convincing you to do that because you're giving ear to them. That is the world. And you don't even understand what you're being deceived by. This is what the entity is doing while they're, by the way, gang stalking you. Feeling a bunch of dogs dressed up as humans are sitting in the library under a fake sun. The prosecution is already complete. So they're all a bunch of psychos sitting under a fake sun stalking. And this is how the government maintains, how can we have a place where they can comfortably engage in that and maintain surveillance? The city library, which is going to be defunded. The city council, the city halls, it's going to be defunded. Ongoing surveillance under the guise of emergency services. When you're calling the police and the police have an emergency, they are turning on their sirens and lights and they're speeding down the street and everybody's getting out of their monitoring. And that is literally the execution of the surveillance system under the guise of emergency services. They manufacture emergencies. I've talked about this before, the fake sun that's over me, and they use this climate in California as a guise for the annual fires, right? But the fake sun, it's not even the natural environment, and there is no such thing as climate change, global warming. This is all manufactured by these demons that are engaging in surveillance. And by the way, not only are they not real, this is a part of the illusion, global, none of those doctrines, those illusions that are serving this system, none of those doctrines assess or address or even begin to speak to the truth of what I'm documenting, such as the fake sun remaining over me at Walmart and being over the Upland Public Library. What does that have to do with climate change? Does climate change create more than one sun? Because nobody ever talked about that before. Does that cause the sun to sit on the top of a building and it not set on fire all of a sudden? So the sun's not, there's more than one sun now with regard to climate change. And that's the product of all of our, poor treatment of the earth and our pollution. Now there's multiple suns. And of all these suns, they all sit over every one of us everywhere for the duration of the day. And exactly how many fake suns are there? Because as I go from city to city, county to county, and state to state, one is remaining over me. And as we were to FaceTime, for example, if I were to FaceTime somebody in Boston, Massachusetts, it's clearly not the same sun. And we could do that with everybody in every state. And it's not going to be the same object. You could do that when you're in different cities and counties, and it's not going to be the same object. So you're talking about what is necessarily the ongoing supernatural pattern of conduct. And with regard to what is supernatural, it is necessarily more than one object that is over me and over you wherever you are, including when they are in some demon that's up in California, that's at the Vaughn's grocery store right now, that has the fake sun over it, is not the same object that's sitting over this roof. That's how precise this evidence is, and that is not addressed by global warming, climate change. It is an illusion, and that's why Sergey, Google, YouTube is engaged in what is interfering with an ongoing investigation, which is a threat to my life, because the evidence that is speaking to the supernatural environment is directly relevant to prosecuting the U.S. government that is still stalking me by helicopters, which Google and YouTube are aware of while they've been targeting my content. And I don't think they understood with regard to the unlawful threat posed to my life and safety and well-being. While they're picking and choosing evidence that is scientifically relevant, they know all about the fake sun that they're stalking under at the Google headquarters in California. And that's why you're targeting content that's not even a threat to anybody. It's literally my camera in the sky. Why are you messing with my content? Because it's about the truth. That's why. Moreover, it's not a violation of any of the policies that YouTube has on the internet. And they are engaging what is a biased and discriminatory basis of removing my content. And you don't have a right to do that. I don't care if I'm using Google and YouTube, a platform, which by necessity is what's going to happen, because the entity has made what are the courts that are gang stalking as a matter of evidence. I documented it. It is not an available alternative with regard to seeking redress for the U.S. government that's targeting me through this court system. Hence the the criminal evasion of service of process by the U.S. government. That's on the record already in the civil courts and by the California Supreme Court. And the entity's multiple kidnappings while engaging in criminal surveillance. That's the U.S. military's repeated acts of kidnapping in order to obstruct justice. So the court system is not what is available as a means of seeking redress. That's a violation of my constitutional rights, the First Amendment, which the U.S. government violates in order to continue the pattern of conduct and further into murdering me. And Google is facilitating that while they're removing my content, where I'm showing images of the court papers, the court documents where I was subject to kidnapping, where the entity, where again, that's my own information. So why are you interested in the privacy of the courthouse or something? What is it exactly that Google has a problem with while I'm publishing that? Yeah, that's sitting on the record already. The entity that's engaging what is removing my content about the fake sun, when I'm talking about the time of day and I'm talking about the maintenance of that light source, and they're doing so with regard to what is biased. You don't, especially with regard to what is surveillance. Their concern is not making sure that you're not deceiving the masses and putting out deceptive information that's harmful to the public like they are. They don't want you to talk about COVID, and they don't want you to talk about things like climate change. This is censorship by the U.S. military. Google is a third party. That's the government, number one. Number two, you're biased because you're a gang stalker and you are threatening me in doing so. And number three, the reason why that's also unconstitutional and it's unethical for Google is because we're someone like myself who actually has something that is groundbreaking information, and it is newsworthy, if you will. It is something that is to be disseminated to the masses, and it's also something that's threatening my life. There is an interest that's not handled, not addressed adequately, and it is inappropriate for Google to interfere with that, even under the guise of their so-called community guidelines. Google is clearly biased, however. Okay, so they're talking about protecting the illusion of climate change, global warming. Those are illusions. And you will see how this system is facilitating, enabling, perpetuating the U.S. government's pattern of conduct, because Google is the U.S. government. YouTube is monitoring, so you have third parties that are paid, all right, to maintain the surveillance system, which is fully underway on the internet. And then you have the entity providing a venue where they can sit up engaging in surveillance all day long, and they call it a city library. They engage in what is criminal surveillance all day long, and they call it the city fire department. They're engaging in what is criminal surveillance all day and all night over the community, as they are divided through cities and counties, and they call it the police departments and the county sheriffs. All right, while they engage in what is maintaining the surveillance system by locking up whoever pursuant to whatever rules they want to make up, and under the guise of maintaining a constitutional framework, and they call that the city courthouse, the state courts throughout the different cities and counties. This is a surveillance system, and that's why I showed you the fake sun over the court, the fake sun over the county sheriff, the fake sun over the police, the fake sun over the city halls, the fake sun over the city venues such as the library, the fake sun over the freeway, the fake sun over my home, the fake sun over wherever it is that I'm going, over the top of my car, even out of the state. And then I don't do that the next day, and a total about face, an abrupt ongoing departation, totally departing from what I just documented yesterday, which is what this is. It's over me at the Walmart. I'm walking up, what is Mountain Avenue, and I'm in Upland today at 10 o'clock. This is an entity, and I'm documenting how I'm walking up San Antonio to Upland, and the fake sun is over me, street for street, and these demons that were molesting the whole time get out of their car and come and sit their psychotic selves in the library, stalking with the developmentally challenged, and they're all equally mentally ill, all of them. This is the entity, this is massive surveillance, and surveillance is happening through the schools, through the city government systems, surveillance through the shopping malls, through any and every means of existence, through consuming products, everything that is online, and surveillance is occurring in your homes. Okay, and the products that you buy, and you've been made reliant upon technology in order to enable that. Okay, COVID was a function of making sure that we are more reliant upon technology that is a means of surveilling you. So those that are offline, that did not formally get online, you certainly weren't into social media, you certainly didn't want to pay your bills on the internet, you didn't do any of that, you found yourself having to do that with COVID. And the entity, I just want to be clear, COVID was an act of what is spell work. Which is effective over those that do not know Christ, okay? First of all, spell work with regard to the spirit of fear. Oh, people are dying from the common cold. That in and of itself, spreading that propaganda. And you have the demons who are the celebrities that are claiming, oh, I have it as well, okay? I have it as well, and you need to go get this vaccine because it will save your life. And as a matter of fact, you don't even have a choice. You have to in order to protect everyone else. And if you don't, then you could risk being incarcerated. This is how the government's engaging in what is forcing us to do that, which is outside of what are ostensibly our constitutional rights. And you're understanding how the Constitution and our constitutional rights are becoming increasingly more and more the illusion that they always have been. Okay, while the entity never intended to actually respect your constitutional rights, while you are subject to criminal surveillance, and that Constitution, state and federal, coexists with that. All right, and so you're getting to what are ways in which, such as COVID, that's a way in which they are eating away, gnawing away at the constitutional framework. In other words, for the purposes of an emergency, now the circumstances are going to change, and you don't have a right to choose to not get a vaccine. For purposes of the circumstances, for purposes of the emergency, the circumstances are going to change. You don't have a right to just talk about COVID. That's not a real emergency. It's manufactured by the U.S. government that's maintaining surveillance. You don't have a right to even talk about that. You don't have a right to say that it's a conspiracy. You don't have a right to say that it was concocted by the government. You don't have a right to talk about that because you are spreading misinformation, and that's harmful to the public. That's violating your freedom of speech rights, and especially while their government is engaging in criminal surveillance, which they haven't told you about. They didn't tell you about that. But they don't want you to talk about what is very well likely helpful information regarding what you may be subject to, such as federal group stalking and monitoring. and that how the gang stalkers are all lying about having COVID because they want to cover up their faces while I'm documenting them in California, which is timing with regard to when I was first kidnapped via criminal defamation. And as I'm released and I start engaging in more and more documentation, the entity started covering up their faces. And I'm letting you know right now, I'm getting in the spirit. They're covering up their faces with regard to fear of being identified. And it coexists with what is COVID, which was a means of spreading hysteria, fear, and doing so on what is premised upon everybody stay at home, everybody cover up their faces, everyone stay away from each other, while they were still monitoring, creating that illusion. And it was nationwide. Okay, so I just want to get to the entity that is indeed engaging in this, and this is all relevant to surveillance. All of it is relevant to surveillance. The same entity that is criminally defaming American citizens are the same ones that are saying that COVID is the reason for the reason why you cannot discuss certain topics, the reason why you cannot do things that you would otherwise be free to do under your First Amendment constitutional right. You can't congregate anymore. Those are demons anyway, and the fakes, under the fake sun in Satan's church. Do you understand what is the purpose of them, who are dogs dressing up as humans, congregating every week, so that they can claim that their constitutional rights are being violated, so that they can appear as you, and they don't even care about that. They're not even Christ followers. It's all serving that illusion. Oh no, we can't go to church anymore. They're not even believers. This is serving that ongoing illusion. They're seeking to look and dress up and act like what they are not, while they are serving that ongoing surveillance system. This is literally such as, for example, another example is having a disingenuous debate. You have the two, like Republicans and Democrats, perfect idea, perfect example. They appear on the surface to appear to have differing positions. Okay, one is for this and one is for that, and one is, fiercely advocating on behalf of this, and the other one is just unjust and unethical. It is ungodly, it's unfathomable, it's un-American that you would be against that. And we are fighting for Americans, and this is what needs to be done. And you are unfit. You shouldn't even be in office. I can't even believe that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? On the surface, it seems as though they have two differing positions. And that is serving an illusion, okay? The fake church, that is Satan's church. This is serving an illusion where COVID is the basis where you can't congregate anymore. And their purpose is to get to those who are genuine believers that they don't want coming together. They don't want you, but they are maintaining that position to look substantially similar to those who are being targeted in fact. Okay, just giving you an example regarding the church. It could be anything. In every area of life, because when you're getting to that, you're getting to freedom of speech, period. So when they're violating your right to congregate, they're getting to, you can't go buy popsicles in the grocery store, you can't go buy black nylons on Saturday morning, you cannot spend 2.5 hours with your kids at home, you can only do 35 minutes. That's how they're intruding on your life regarding of what I'm just giving you an example regarding the church, because the government has no business engaging in that level of intrusion in the private lives of the American citizens. But we don't have any privacy, and you're already under surveillance, and the entities engaging what is step by step, epidemic by epidemic, manufactured emergency by manufactured emergency, removing that veil regarding what has been surveillance the entire time by those that are also occupying domicile residency in the United States, while the ongoing experimentation of those that are, again, targeted like myself, and on all the U.S. is doing is maintaining surveillance, and everything is serving that illusion. That illusion of being a free people, of being a free world leader, of being a private citizen and having rights under the Constitution. That's the entity that's engaging what is maintaining that system for that very purpose. And so that you would be bamboozled and you would be astonished when things abruptly change, which is also how Satan wants to startle you, create fear in you. All right. And Satan is the one that has been put on his heels, and all of Satan's secrets have been told before he scheduled for that to happen. Okay, these demons are never going to accomplish what they thought they were going to take over the world, and that they were going to do so without anybody suspecting. And then by the time that they were successful, you not knowing anything about it, there was nothing that you could do. That's never going to happen. They've been taking each other out. They've been targeting each other. You're talking about demons on the other side of the world. You're going to war with them. They're murderers. The U.S. are murderers. They're demons. They're all children of the devil, and they're killing each other, stealing from each other. That is distinct with regard to the children of God who live around the world. Okay, just like the U.S., my so-called government is terrorizing me. Those that are outside of the U.S. and their governments, these regimes, are targeting them. All right, so the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and I'm just speaking to how Democrats and Republicans, they serve an illusion. They're on the same team. They're all keeping us under surveillance, and neither Democrats or Republicans are telling you that. They're holding their debates, and they're doing so under the fake sun. They're having meetings, press conferences, and they're doing so under the fake sun. You think these people that are benefiting, that are exercising this power, that they're ignorant about that which they benefit from? The surveillance system keeping all the people of the state under their thumb, monitoring with them? They're all demons. The celebrities, the politicians, those that are in position of power, these companies that in the United States are essentially the power of a politician within a company, exercising influence, ridiculous wealth accumulated. It's the capitalistic endeavor while they're engaging in surveillance. All right, so I just wanted to point that out. And you're going from what is the developmentally challenged, engaging vagina monitoring in the bathroom, which is creating an illusion, oh, this one is mentally ill, versus what all the rest of them that aren't. No, they are all mentally ill, and they're all monitoring, and they're also all under the evidence of it. The fake sun, which is in an entirely different location yesterday, and at 12:49 p.m., it's 11:53 a.m. right now. It's over me in Ontario, California, and there is no person or anything that makes that invalid or unreasonable or evidence that you will put to the side. It literally is the primacy of that case because it's so profound. It's supernatural. And it's no coincidence that nobody is speaking, and I mean nobody that such as that matters. NASA hasn't said anything. The FBI, head of the FBI hasn't noticed. Nobody said anything. The entity that's engaging what is surveying the environment, everybody that's talking to us about the environment and global warming, oh, they haven't noticed because they're not addressing the fake sun documentation. In fact, they're gang stalking you under that while they're giving you asinine explanations, which are not explanations regarding what I am showing you, what is not the sun at all. And their behavior in that environment. They're demons that are lying to you. They're demons who are also engaging what is the maintenance of an illusion, which is spell work, okay, while they are keeping you ignorant, blinded to it. And they need you to be in sin. They need you to be at that behaving like a dog while you're a human, you're a person made in the image of God. They need you behaving like a dog in order to exercise that influence, to deceive you, in order to exercise spiritual power over you, meaning their spell work works on you. Okay. But what I was speaking to regarding, such as my documentation on the video of the internet, no platform has any basis to engage in what is interfering with that which I am using, especially on the guise of what they've stated is their purpose by being and providing a platform for the little guy. Okay. People like me and across the globe like me who are trying to communicate something, share an idea, make their voice known, spread, teach, educate, even when you are seeking to protect yourself. And just because I'm the first one, I'm pioneering that, does that make it less substantial? Does that make it less vital? No, absolutely not. And Google's on the wrong side of history having targeted me for that. And it's because Google's engaging in this criminal pattern of conduct. But I just want to be clear, it is improper to engage in what is applying your community guidelines when you are a biased participant in what is being exposed. So this is what the entity has done, taking down content that has to do with topics such as, for example, COVID or climate control, where it is interfering with what are necessary illusions that have to remain intact regarding the surveillance system. They don't want you speaking on it because they don't want you changing the narrative. They don't want you affecting that spirit of fear that they have constructed and keeping it there. And it's also relevant to what they will continuously engage in building, which is seeking to alter the rights of and the landscape regarding the ability to change the rights of those that are in this country. And that's assuming that the entity is going to do that by law, operation of law in the first place. You talk about the United States Supreme Court making decisions that are going to alter the way that the laws operate pursuant to freedom of speech, the ability to congregate. When you are talking about, I don't want to go get a vaccine and I have a right to not do that. And so, okay, well, you can't go to church. You can't go do anything because you are quote unquote deemed to be a threat. And that's why, because the government says so. The government that's keep you under surveillance. The government that says, well, this is the case. And because this is the case because we said so. The government that's keep you under surveillance is what says so. Okay, and who is aiding in that? The people of the state that are claiming that they have COVID. You're always relying on the demons that are gang stalking with them. These are the demons claiming that they have COVID. And they're calling it COVID. I'm just giving it an example regarding the illusions that are presented by demons. The fake sun is over them while they're claiming that. All I'm speaking to, the fact is, this is the entity that dwells on and exists with what are very real illusions, because the fake sun is not the natural environment, but that fake sun is there. It's real, but it's not the natural environment. So understand what it is that I'm stating. They're giving you what is an explanation regarding what's happening to people when the entity's engaging in sacrificing them and stating that it's because of a sickness and you need to get a vaccine. And if you don't get this vaccine, then you could die as well. The entity's engaged in witchcraft, killing people, sacrificing them. And they said it was because of COVID. And before COVID, it was H1N1. And it's like an overnight thing. And now you're hearing hantavirus. These are the type of things that you really shouldn't be paying attention to anyway. And I know that I don't. But I understand where I was in history while I was in California. These demons out here in California, when I began heavy documentation, this is when the entity, when I was kidnapped. And Newsom is in office. Kidnapped for the first time regarding trying to criminally defame me as being mentally ill. Kidnapped me in a ward. Shannon Faherty, who Newsom promoted, rewarded for engaging in that kidnapping. She became an actual judge, and she's going to prison. But nonetheless, she's not the only one, but she's going to prison. This entity, while I'm kidnapped, this is when COVID surfaces. And that's when all these policies, these guidelines, and you can't do this and you can't do that. This is when this started. This was 2020, March of 2020. I'm kidnapped. In February of 2020, I am kidnapped by this entity that is still gang stalking, engaging in criminal surveillance that I am exposing. And in California, while I'm kidnapped, this is an entity that engaged in COVID services while that is occurring. And as I get out and I am released from kidnapping in April of 2020, this is when I begin heavier and heavier documentation. And this is when the entity is wearing their masks. This is when they're becoming more and more prevalent regarding the guidelines pursuant to COVID and all the restrictions in our everyday lives. When you're already under surveillance, they're not discussing that. And this is why you cannot trust what they are stating, because they're always leaving that out, and they have still left that out to date. What does criminal surveillance in California and by this U.S. military have to do with, and how does it affect this so-called truth that we're supposed to believe that it's COVID? And the entity that's not sacrificing people like it is every other time, sacrificing like they are through gang stalking. They're not telling you about these things. And that's all I'm stating. Okay, but nonetheless, this is the P.O.C. The entity, if you can hear in the background, engaging in criminal summoning. And Elizabeth, Carissa, and Kiki are engaging in that pattern of conduct inside of this library where the fake sun's not moving. If you'll recall last week, Adam Tuckerman is gang stalking me, and you'll see Carissa and him inside of this window area and the circulation area on the first floor where the fake sun is over me. And I discussed with him while I was documenting him under that fake sun, which is, I believe, during the 2 p.m., 3 p.m. hour. It might have even been 4 p.m. But I'm speaking to the maintenance of the fake sun. In fact, I think it was in the evening. The fake sun is over me now at 10 o'clock as I'm inside of the library, and I took pictures of it moving over my head. That's the entity that's already surrounded with evidence. The employees are going to prison. And the public library is present. It is literally existing for the purpose of surveillance. Because in the United States, that wanted to appear on the global scene as one that is a free world leader, they are maintaining criminal surveillance by maintaining a society where every function, every level, every means of that society, every business, every store, every shopping mall, every home, which are not private properties, they're facilitating venues, every venue of the government, the library, the city council, the city hall, the entity that's maintaining the police departments that are typically associated around the city hall, but not necessarily. Sometimes they're separate, like Ontario Police Department's off of the 60 and the city hall is at the Civic Center where I'm documenting. But nonetheless, any type of venue, it doesn't matter whether it's categorized as quote unquote private, like my apartment at Alvarado Gardens, or a means of public property such as the Ontario City Hall or the Upland City Hall. It is all there for criminal surveillance. And so the entity employment is a means of providing a paycheck to those that are engaging in surveillance. The city library is here for purposes of criminal surveillance and to welcome the people of the state to share in criminal surveillance, and they're going to prison for it. Okay, I just wanted to speak to that. The entity sitting in the developmentally challenged, and this is the entity that's going to be prosecuted for that. You have actors like OPARC that they're not going to remain in position, and speaking to the fact that those are not necessary anyway because they are exploiting what is their condition. Demons are manifesting, as I told you, in many ways. So these are demon-possessed people that have conditions because they're cursed, and they have created a whole illusion regarding, oh, well, the mentally ill, we need to create businesses so that we can take them around and let them take advantage of the use of the public library. And we can, teach them how to crochet and teach them how to knit and teach them how to do glitter and play with a hot glue gun. And all they're doing is engaging in surveillance with the government, which I've documented very heavily. In fact, the more that the psychopaths that are driving to these venues, gang stalking by company, gang stalking with a developmentally challenged, they engage in more of, they really like to go for the vagina. As you document them, OPARC and Anthesis, they'll go in the bathroom monitoring your vagina. Those are the psychopaths that are monitoring with the developmentally challenged, and they're equally mentally ill. Okay, so these are the manifestations of the cursed who are all demon-possessed. Okay, so the demon-possessed, they give birth to demon-possessed people. Sin is generational. And in this demonic system and maintaining this ongoing illusion where they are focusing on the carnal, not addressing the spiritual, while they are spiritually attacking you and spiritually monitoring you, they are engaging what is maintaining illusion regarding how they identify what are conditions that they suffer with. Suicide is a concoction of Satan. Satan came up with suicide. The mentally ill are the demon-possessed who commit suicide. And the entity that claims that that people are committing suicide is the entity that is engaged in what is sacrificing people, murdering them, and claiming that they committed suicide. Yes, I'm using this side. So the entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they're doing so while they're maintaining that level of surveillance, and they are doing so while they are creating ideas such as those that are suicidal. Suicide is spiritually attacking someone, telling them to hurt themselves, to hurt someone else, to go harm themselves. You're being monitored. Those are not your ideas. It's a spiritual attack. Demons do that. And the demons that are stalking the homosexuals and the planes and the helicopters and sounding sirens, engaged in surveillance, those are the ones of that cursed condition that commit suicide. They murder other people and claim that they committed suicide. Suicide is very, very rare. No matter how sad you are, no matter how confused you may be about what's going on in your life because you don't know that demons are attacking you or monitoring you. That's a concoction of the devil, okay? So I just want to be clear, but particularly with the surveillance system, this entity engages in what is gang stalking you, will take your life and set up the facts such that it appears as though you took your own life. And nobody argues against it because their mom says it. Their mom says that that they were, so depressed even though they were on the verge of writing a book. And coincidentally, mom benefits off of that book that's already ready to be published and have her name signed on it while the daughter is dead. Mysteriously just threw herself off of the top of a building. And they claim that she killed herself. Beautiful, intelligent, successful. Okay, getting ready to publish a book. That's somebody's real story. And it was not suicide. Okay, Charlie Kirk was an act of assassination. That was a targeted act, and not because the person that is on camera and they caught them through an investigation. No. This is a surveillance system, and Charlie Kirk was taken out by this system. People that are inspirational, people that are thinking outside of the box, people that may even be a part of this system, but they're perhaps a little too successful. and somebody else wants that, perhaps like Charlie Kirk's wife, will engage in taking you out. Demons don't actually love each other. They're not in marriages to be in marriage and glorify God, which is what the institution is created for, by God, for God. They do so to, as dogs who are dressed up like humans, to influence other people. Ooh, look at those two celebrities. They're married. Oh my goodness, look at their lifestyle. That's so amazing. I want to live like that. Oh my goodness, look at her. She's getting her bag. Oh my goodness, look at those are dogs. All right, and they are in that position to influence you. Okay, the entities engaging in surveillance, and they are welcoming those that are outside of the United States from other foreign parts of the world to share in keeping us under surveillance in the United States while maintaining the illusion that we are at odds with those outside of the country, that they are enemies because they engaged in this act or in that act, when in reality, they are engaged in surveilling us outside of the U.S., and the U.S. is engaged in surveilling us in the U.S. That's the reality. So the entities engaging in that pattern of conduct, and they're doing so while they are sharing in that criminal system as one entity that is very malicious. Okay, but anyway, this is the P.O.C. It is currently 12:07 p.m. The entity is keeping the fake sun, and you have the people of the state, vagina monitors that want to come sit next to me and then try to complain about the noise level when you chose to be here monitoring under the fake sun at that. So that's the P.O.C. It's currently 12:07 p.m. Remember, the fake sun is over me at 12:49 p.m. on video. P.O.C. All right, what you will see at 12:10 p.m. is the entity that is stalking with noise while stalking in the path, wanting to be as close as possible. They're covered in engineer light while they're pacing up the stairs, while again stalking with noise, and that's speaking to the psychopathic conduct that the entity is engaging in. The entity is inclusive of the two that are walking is Kiki, the African American female. You'll see the engineer light on the staircase. She's a psychopath. She's actually stalking me with noise at the same time the door closes as I use my device, which is speaking to the vagina monitor that's stalking by sitting right next to me. So these are demons that know that they're being documented, and that's also why they're all being committed while they're gang stalking me. But nonetheless, the entity is stalking with noise, which is what the employees inside of the Upland Public Library are doing. This is what the entity is always doing, but this is what they do with planes and helicopters. So they're in a building doing that. Kiki and Alan are stalking with the slamming door noise that coexists with the use of my camera. They're doing so while I take a picture. You'll see them walking upstairs, consumed in a conversation with each other, not focused on me, clearly not stalking because they work here, and everybody's ignorant about the significant fact nobody even pays attention to sunlight. It's just sunlight. Nobody paying who's studying the sunlight. Oh, you're weird if you do that. Anyway, the entity is engaging in what is stalking with noise, and this is also why they're going to prison. This is the entity that's going to be committed behind their pattern of conduct. And this is all that Kiki and Alan and Elizabeth and Joy, Adam Tuckerman, and the teenagers, the people of the state that they hire that are volunteering, and the demons that are coming into the venue just like that, they do so pursuant to my every move. They do so pursuant to what I do on the laptop. They do so pursuant to my vagina in the bathroom, while they're engaged in what is stalking with audible activity. And you know that because Kiki wouldn't be covered in any sunlight. There wouldn't be any light on the staircase at all under any circumstances, certainly not for the duration of the day, but it wouldn't be the case if that were the sun yesterday in Ontario. And that's going to be on video at 12:49 p.m. And you will see what is the entity that is engaged in psychopathic pacing up and down the stairs, monitoring. And what are you doing when you're monitoring? You're stalking. And how are you doing that when you're not talking to the person, you don't know them, and you're able to engage in that uncanny ability because they're demon possessed. And that demon possession is directly impacting their behavior. They are mentally ill, and the behavioral health issue is presented in that pattern of conduct shared by them, where they are inclined, passionate about. And their passion is not recognized based on the fact that they don't say anything to you or they keep their back to you. In fact, their passion is identified through their linebacker conduct. All right, they behave like linebackers on a football field. All right, not looking at you, not talking to you, but they are stalking in the path, and they do not give up that position. Okay, they're psychotic. All right, so this is the entity that's going to be committed while they are stalking with noise and stalking with light, which is what they're doing. And they just gave you a sample. You hear that door slamming? That's what they're doing all day long. Not really focused on anything. That's why the library is here, for surveillance. And you're going to prison for that. They did not anticipate prison from engaging in what is criminal surveillance in a library, and that's exactly where they're going. This is P.O.C. It's currently 12:13 p.m. Alrighty, it is 12:49 p.m. As you can see, I am in Upland, California, and at the top you can see I am at the Ontario Civic Center in Ontario, California, at the Ovid Family Community Library. So I'm documenting what is being placed at two different cities and two different city libraries at the same time. This is P.O.C. p.m. And you'll recall the entity that is maintaining a fake sun is engaging in what is criminal surveillance. And this is where you're looking at the venues of a government that's going to be defunded. No senior center. You're not supposed to be engaging in surveillance criminal activity amongst the senior citizens in any city. The entity that's funding that is stalking with the U.S. military that went from flying over Walmart at Mountain in 5th Street under the fake sun that was over that Walmart, over the top of my head. And that's where you see it right here as I walk out from where you see everybody stalking. And it includes omnitrans gang stalking. Okay, omnitrans is not helping anybody. Omnitrans incriminates just like the homosexuals of the U.S. military. Omnitrans can't help anybody. Omnitrans is showing why every person, whether they don't have two pennies to rub together or whether they're a wealthy business owner that's engaged in what is maintaining a multi-million billion-dollar business, I'm going to prosecute you. You're going to be treated the same under the law. And that's if your business even continues to exist, like Omnitrans will not. All right, they're too much of a threat while they engage in this level of impunity. Oh, they engage in gang stalking and conspiring murder of people with complete disregard for federal prison, because that's where Omnitrans employees, their employee numbers, they're going to prison, as I documented them stalking with the U.S. military. This is P.O.C. There's no sign over the Upland Public Library where the developmentally challenged, okay, the physically handicapped are dragging their body parts to gang stalk, okay, under a fake sun. That's Satan. P.O.C. Alrighty, the evidence speaks for itself. This is P.O.C. in Upland, California. Upland Public Library employees such as Elizabeth who are gang stalking are going to prison. P.O.C. It is 12:51 p.m. It is currently 5:19 p.m. and what you will see reflected in the images captured are significant with regard to what is scientific. Always remember, this is scientifically relevant evidence. So this is not only is it probative evidence by virtue of capturing the sun, and this is the level of evidence that is captured within the P.O.C. is evidence that anyone can understand and readily identify with regard to its high probative value because of the fact that you're looking up in the sky and you're looking at the sun, something that none of us control. And I'm not putting it up in the sky. This is not Photoshop. I engage in real-time screen recordings and remind you about the video I captured before. And even in this high technical age and whatnot, this is an entity that's engaging in what is targeting me, and nothing is fake also about how the gang stalking police and the people of the state are stalking and targeting in real time and harassing in real time. And it's occurring in the environment that is scientifically relevant. Moreover, it is scientifically relevant because of the nature of the evidence capturing the sun that is remaining at one address, which is a phenomenon, okay? And the entity is under the fake sun at this time after I'm reminding you about what is captured at an earlier hour, such as what Landivar is engaging in, which is relevant, and it proves what Landivar is engaging in, and it proves what Landivar is, and it proves what is wrong with Landivar, and that proof is what is revealing malice while the entity is engaging in what is this criminal system of surveillance. That the sun is in the same position at 5:19 p.m. over the roof of the Upland Public Library, because what else is going to be shining as though it's the sun? This is clearly that object, and that object is also over this same roof while I'm in the presence of Landivar, who was proven by science to be engaging in what is understood as the criminal pattern of conduct as I have laid it out for you. And Landivar is doing so in a highly malicious manner, and his partners that are
co-defendants, and they're not partners and co-defendants based on their personal knowledge of each other, based on their acknowledging it, based on the positions that they hold or how they've never met. They are partners based on what is the U.S. government's criminal pattern of conduct, where the entity is maintaining criminal surveillance in an identifiable manner, and that's where their partnership, their criminal cooperation is established by their nonverbal, supernatural engagement in a behavioral pattern that is not only deranged, but it is relevant to that environment that is also supernatural. That environment is a part of their pattern of conduct, meaning they're not just walking, driving, flying, singing, pushing their strollers, eating, screaming, dancing. They're doing so in that environment, which is the pattern of conduct of the entity that is maintaining surveillance as they are engaging in what is public corruption. And this is how public corruption is occurring under the fake sun. And Landivar is engaging in what is gang stalking during the 8 a.m. hour. And I am under that same fake sun at the Upland Public Library, the same address where that light object is over the same Upland Public Library at both during the 8 a.m. hour and as I am showing you on the inside of that same building at the same address where the sun would not be at any vantage point under any circumstances, and it certainly isn't in any other state, nor could it be at the same time, nor could there be more than one sun, and there is no other explanation. And this is evidence that's going to be used to assess with regard to this psychiatric issues associated with the malicious pattern of stalking as police departments, as I have shown and have documented that I remain subject to. And it is occurring in furtherance of murdering me in concert with the mentally ill entity that are filling a library, both as paid employees and as patrons, both over and under the age of majority, that are engaging in sexually perverted, predatory, and paranoid level means of stalking, including, as I document, running into the bathroom and making sure that they are maintaining that ongoing stalking presence at all times. And that is what is so maniacal about you seeing feet in the bathroom stalls around me. That is what is so psychotic about the entity being present with minor children, engaging in any form of presence and activity creation. There's nothing cute or innocent about it. And that is the ability to see that malice, which is of Satan, when you are looking at that duration of time and looking at it in a vacuum. That's how Landivar, who is a maniacal psychopath, plotting to harm another person while maintaining a casual, nonchalant facial expression and appearing to engage in what is the proverbial protecting and serving somebody that is in a state of need, right? Ostensibly, even similar to mine, appearing as though she's homeless, sitting at the bus stop with her luggage outside in the cold. All right. And he's engaging in what you would assume is seeking to help her, and because she's clearly not in violation of the law. This is getting to malice. He is stalking in the path. He's doing so with a gun on his hip. He's engaging in all manner of what is psychological torture toward me. The focus, the target under the fake sun that remains over me for the duration of the day, while the entity is engaging in what is threatening by virtue of the weapon on his hip, by virtue of the engagement and targeting by that department, having committed kidnapping with Kiki, who's stalking me under the fake sun. And she does so conveniently by being an employee. That's how she accomplishes it. And she's engaging in what is monitoring my devices, even monitoring the evidence that I publish on the internet that has an inevitable effect on her future, which includes prison. And Kiki is engaging in what is ongoing monitoring and also methods of harassment, such as her stalking me with noise, which is how a psychopath engages in microaggressive means of targeting. And that's going to be assessed in the mental evaluations that all gang stalkers are going to be subject to. Nonetheless, this is where you are identifying malice, not the facial expression when you're looking in a vacuum. And the entity does not understand how they're being prosecuted. Neither do they need to. It's not going to be based on some criminal's assessment and idea and machinations regarding what's happening. It's going to be based on objective facts that are insurmountable, evidence that is incapable of contending with. And that's what's necessary when you're dealing with something as high as the government engaging in what is criminal surveillance, actually plotting against a single American citizen. And it's actually beyond just me being a single American citizen. This is the government that is engaging in this pattern of conduct amongst American citizens and those across the globe. And as I remain subject to it, I am being ostracized. I'm being targeted, isolated amongst that population that is indeed mentally ill. So this is a population that is mentally deranged, and they are all stalking, and that is not
a movie plot. It is real life, and that is shown and only recognized. You can only see that when you are looking at the P.O.C. And why is that? Because when you're looking at it in the way that Landivar and the Upland Police, Ontario Police, any actor in the entity wants you to, you are only looking at what's happening in that video during the 8 a.m. hour. And that's not how the pattern of conduct operates in the first place. They're ignorant at the outset. They are, but that's not the way that the evidence is instrumental with regard to showing that. And that's not how you're engaging in any investigation. By the way, you're not just looking at one piece of evidence in a vacuum. You're always considering the totality of facts, and this is absolutely the case when you're dealing with a malicious, supernatural pattern of conduct that includes an entity that is acting cooperatively, that is relying on the multiplicity of faces to distract you, to confuse you, to separate everything. And none of it's separated, it's all connected. You're dealing with demon possession. It's the same criminal actor, Satan, operating through the people. The people are merely those that work for the government, meaning they get a paycheck like Landivar, and they also work for the government when they bring in their demon-possessed kids and sit at the computer all day long on their off day, like the people of the state do. All right, even those that are homeless, they're sleeping outside and they're coming in, taking their shifts, gang stalking, including by engaging in what is doing a shift in the bathroom, making sure that my vagina is kept under surveillance in that private space. This is what is speaking to all that Landivar is committing and representing that ongoing unlawful threat internationally, because what this entity is doing, it is doing in concert with those even outside of the United States. It is entirely un-American. Alrighty, and that's the significance of the fake sun being over 450 North Euclid Avenue. And then you're going to look at the pictures. This is when you're getting to analysis, and this is how I'm showing you to recognize what you're actually looking at. You're looking at a lot, and it's more than what you're observing on the surface, because you're also then analyzing the mind behind that, the intentions behind that, all of that pattern of conduct, all of the criminal conduct that's underway that is in plain view and yet not readily identifiable without the pattern of conduct to let you know, hold on, don't make your conclusions yet. Wait 10 hours and see what happens when that sun does not move. When Landivar moves away, but that sun doesn't, and it remains over me. And Landivar is replicated thousands of times all day long, stalking me. All right. This is the entity that's engaged in that. Yesterday, 24 hours ago, I remain in Ontario. I don't come to the Upland Public Library, and the entity kept the fake sun, as I documented today at 12:49 p.m. I'm inside of the Upland Public Library, and I'm at the Ontario Civic Center, specifically the Ovid Family Community Library, at the same time, and I'm showing you the phenomenon, and yet I'm able to capture a phenomenon over and over again with regard to what is a pattern of conduct, and it's impossible for that phenomenon to happen even one time, and I'm able to capture it on an ongoing systematic basis because I am, in fact, targeted by the state. The entity is doing this with regard to what is a fake sun, and even there, the entity engages in what is providing you more confirmation, where the entity is targeting in military aircrafts, targeting by helicopters, targeting as criminally surveilling departments such as the fire department, the police department, the gang stalking ambulances, who are engaging what is under that fake sun, targeting me by use of emergency vehicles and literally their positions that are here maliciously maintaining a surveillance system under the guise of being available for in the event of an emergency. And the entity that's maintaining the so-called emergency services are actually engaging in criminal surveillance, and that is the entire purpose of police departments, fire departments, and ambulance services in the states that are engaging in the surveillance system with the U.S. military. Okay, the entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, and in Ontario, I am on Hope Boulevard, and so are the U.S. military, these hostile homosexuals that are stalking and doing cartwheels in the parking lot of the Stater Brothers Ontario Village Shopping Center, where I was this morning, where I was yesterday morning, and where that fake sun remains over me right now at this time, where I'm at El Pollo Loco, and the fake sun is not in any location simultaneously to be over the roof of the Upland Public Library, whereby it wouldn't be, even if we weren't comparing it to Ontario. It's still over the same roof that it was in the morning. That this is, under all circumstances, speaking to a pattern of conduct where Landivar is surrounded by evidence, and there is absolutely nothing that he can say absolutely nothing. And anything that he can say, I take that back. Everyone gets, even terrorists get a day in court. It's just not legally relevant. It will not change what is a straightforward criminal prosecution, a conviction as a domestic terrorist, as a violent sex offender. All right. The entities engaging in this conduct and the fake sun that is over me in the Ontario Village Shopping Center, hovering over the El Pollo Loco, where I'm describing impossible lights swimming on the walls inside of that restaurant, and how companies like Amazon Prime and El Pollo Loco are going to be put out of business, where psychopaths are stalking while they're hostile and listening to the ongoing progress of their criminal prosecution that is first happening on the worldwide internet, and then it's going to be confirmed inside of the four walls of a tribunal, where they will be mentally assessed for engaging in an unabated program of psychological torture where they have plotted, as the United States has with the people of the state for centuries, to murder and kidnap an American citizen. They further engaged in what is, and delight in, sexual violence, where they are not engaging in any witchcraft, but they're mentally ill, and their practice, their pattern and practice is to engage in what is actually pacing, pursuant to what is their ritual. They engage in what is maintaining light activity. That's the significance of the sun pertaining to their ritual, and ongoing audible activity pertaining to their ritual surrounding my vagina in a private space, which is surveillance. And violating a reasonable expectation of privacy in that private space as an entity is an unprecedented sex offense, corporate invasion of privacy, as I have termed it. The entities engaging in this P.O.C, while they are monitoring the genitalia of a targeted individual, which Landivar shares in, and that's why the fake son is still here at 5, even while his partners serve in his being subject to prison, gang stalking at 6:58 p.m. as I documented on the same day, a couple of days ago. This is the entity that's maintaining that level of evidence against itself while they maintain what is going to be used to have them committed. They're very ritualistic conduct, their very pattern of conduct is not only used to prosecute an entity, it's not only used to diagnose mental illness, it's going to be used to literally have them committed. There is no defense for being at any location because, of course, you live there, of course, you work there, of course, you're traveling there. This is how the U.S. military is maintaining surveillance, and you will be prosecuted for it, analogous to what is strict liability basis. You're there, you're convicted, period. The entities engaging in this, and this is relevant to what is terrorism, and the entities shall be subject to what is martial law, including their gang stalking children. All right, it is currently 5:34 p.m. That's the significance of the images you will see on the Google Drive. And the entity has the fake son over me at the Ontario Village Shopping Center, where they made a spectacle of themselves, giving me that evidence. And then as they go on, triggered from moment to moment, forgetting about it, the evidence remains on the record, and we can all look back on that together. Understanding who the mentally ill in the United States are, the criminal system that they're engaging in, and understanding the ways in which this entity is operating and the levels of depravity, desperation, and also the ceaseless engagement in that which is at this point, it's self-sacrificial. And yet you are learning how harmful, how threatening the mentally ill are, because they are harming themselves and they're still targeting. So one would say, what is your point at this juncture? What exactly are the mentally ill telling themselves that they're accomplishing? And this is why martial law is necessary. This is why involuntary commitments shall result from engaging in the pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. It's currently 5:35 p.m. Alrighty, this is showing Union Pacific targeting with the city of Upland, doing so in concert with the people of the state. Union Pacific targeting on the train tracks under the fake sun with the various cities, doing so while the entity is doing things like amplifying train activity at the Stater Brothers parking lot. This is how the entity is using interstate. So under what is indeed the fake sun that's in alignment to me on the same street where I'm present in the morning. This is how the entities engage in what is federal stalking. Under Title 18, the language of federal stalking, Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2, and its massive facilitation. Union Pacific is going to be federally prosecuted, and so is Metrolink. Metrolink is gang stalking while Union Pacific uses the Metrolink train line to engage in the criminal pattern of conduct outside of the schedule. He's an employee 9T DC 795, and he's going to prison. That's a 7-Eleven employee. He's going to prison. They're getting in their little gang stalking it. You're going to prison while you're targeting, while the entity is stalking by helicopter. These are demons that are not bright. They're going to prison for this.
This is the entity that's engaged in psychopathic pacing, no airport over here. These are the mentally ill that are triggered while I'm documenting them, I'm dragging them, I'm humiliating them, I am beating them to a prosecutorial pulp on the internet, and then they engage in this clearly incriminating criminal conduct. Everybody in the 7-Eleven that works there is going to prison. They're fools. They were poisoning my food. You know who's poisoning my food? The homosexuals that are stalking in these planes and in the helicopter, and the entity that's using Union Pacific that does not operate on the Metrolink train lines. The entity's engaged in targeting. The fake sun is how you know and how you're going to prosecute a gang stalking train line such as Union Pacific. That's also targeting in the same manner in Las Vegas, Nevada, under the fake sun, in Pomona, California, under the fake sun, in Fontana, California, under the fake sun. This is P.O.C. You just saw him in the black Nissan. I documented him before. This is 7-Eleven that's poisoning me. The fake sun is over me at 7-6, including the entity that is gang stalking in this manner while you're looking at them coming into the city of Upland to be in relevant position. Everybody wants to partake in what is worshiping me while they're engaging in what is that which is going to result in massive involuntary commitments, because this is not witchcraft, but this is what in their mentally ill minds they think that they're accomplishing while you're witnessing what is psychopathic pacing under the fake sun, manic behavior. It's criminal and it's manic. All right, while the entity is engaging in that which is overtly criminal. This lily white woman is a stalker, 9 UCY 213, and this federal prosecution is going to follow her to where she is, where she lives. I'm gonna prosecute her. This is P.O.C. and I'm prosecuting 7-Eleven. All right, that's the pattern of conduct, and this is what the mentally ill do while they are, again, triggered, very triggered, tormented, not just by demons, but by this evidence, and they're going to be committed by it. This is P.O.C. It is 7:06 p.m. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. Alrighty, this is the U.S. military that's going to be prosecuted as sex offenders, being involuntarily committed as mentally ill. Not only as they are engaged in treason, but this is mentally ill behavior of the U.S. military, and they will be subject to involuntary commitments. They are engaging in what is not only criminal, but it is demonic, it is deranged, and it is criminal conduct that they're sharing with the people of the state under the fake sun at 1544 North Euclid, where I am here in this fake sun that is on my what is my west side. This is the illusion, the mental illness that is a portrait for the world to witness, the international demise of the U.S. military that are engaged in treason in concert with the rest of the world while engaging in terrorism in the United States. And in video, the fake sun is on this side, which is never the natural environment. Under these circumstances, were the mentally ill that make up the U.S. military stalking an American citizen in a helicopter, which is exceedingly deranged behavior, that they are also convinced accomplishes what is witchcraft that will make them successful in this widely documented and widely disseminated criminal activity, meaning it's no secret and it is absolutely unsuccessful. This is the environment where the people of the state are being prosecuted as engaging in treason as well under Article 3, Section 3, and they will be subject to involuntary commitments as well. This is also evidence of the city of Upland targeting with the city of Ontario in concert with the U.S. military that's exhibiting also mental illness through the wealth of documentation, the psychopathic pacing, while the mentally ill become triggered and they are documented gang stalking. The entity is engaging in this with the state of California. Every city is serving in the criminal conspiracy to murder. While the U.S. military is in the city stalking in helicopters, while that city is engaging in criminal surveillance, that city will be prosecuted. That's Marcelo Blanco, that's Darren Goodman, that's Mike Lorenz, that's Michael Dorsey. This is the entity that's engaged in that, and they shall be prosecuted accordingly. This is Dominic Choi. I've documented it, and this is going to be the prosecution of that for treason. Is the abysmal fail to engage, the abysmal failure regarding what is any secret of terrorism that is underway in the U.S. and there's no secret regarding the homosexuals make up the military, and they are engaged in criminal activity for which they have been very much caught. That's and for them to be caught is for the people of the state to be caught. These are the psychopaths stalking with impossible light, with the mentally ill that are stalking in helicopters. This whole cartoon environment, this whole cartoon pattern of conduct is going to serve for massive involuntary commitments in federal prison and unprecedented damages, the removal of businesses from existence that are serving in surveillance in the U.S. and internationally, while they are conspiring murder of innocent American citizens and those abroad. This is P.O.C. It's currently 7:26 p.m. The video that will be attached is the one where the fake sun is rising, which is going to be the involuntary commitments of the mentally ill that call themselves the U.S. military. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, this is documentation of
Wendy's committing sexual assault and battery, as I'm going to document impossible light activities, sex offenders, and that's not headlights on the wall behind there. They're going into the drive-thru. That's the RICO case, and that's federal prison. Remember, Lupe's already going to prison. And these are sex offenders stalking in the drive-thru, so let's get that license. Committing the sexual act of violence while engaging in what is stalking in a drive-thru. This is the evidence that's going to have them committed. This is a mentally ill person that's demon-possessed that is stalking with the U.S. military by going into a drive-thru, and the entity from whom they're ordering is also sharing in that criminal pattern of conduct, including while they are being documented, their co-defendant is stalking with impossible light and going to purchase something. 8JUL089. That's involuntary commitment material right there. And the entity is gang stalking with the Ontario Fire Department that I'm documenting, engaging in criminal summoning, as Lupe was aware last week, and the entity is aware while the entity is engaging in not only stalking by the U.S. military by flying over me and flying while I'm en route to this venue, but Ontario Fire Michael GERKEN, who's engaged in the mentally ill pattern of conduct while they engage in criminal summoning as I'm walking to the venue. That's the P.O.C, and Wendy's is sharing in that pattern of conduct, and all that the entity does is incriminate the corporate entities and incriminate liars like Lupe, who engage in targeted harassment as her means of gang stalking. License 7 Paul Frank Bob 684. They're all being prosecuted for sexual assault and battery by engineer light. And when you engage in that, they will be involuntarily committed. The impossible light activity that I've been capturing is going to be used to put people in mental institutions. 6MQX427. This is P.O.C. Wendy's is stalking while the people of the state are pasting in the parking lot, and that will never touch me. That's not headlights that would be touching my person. Those are demons. The train activity, the light activity, the presence in the path is criminal stalking. And that's the U.S. military acting with demons. This is the population that's going to be involuntarily committed, and Wendy's is being prosecuted. This is why you don't gang stalk. Shells is gang stalking. Wendy's is being federally prosecuted. This is why you don't gang stalk. This is P.O.C. It is currently 9:19 p.m. All right, I just want to document is SHEEHY that's engaged in what is gang stalking, locking the door. This is the P.O.C. The entity is amplifying train activity while SHEEHY is monitoring. And remember, the entity is monitoring by Ontario Fire, doing so with the entity that's molested with the possible light and locking the door with regard to targeted harassment that Lupe is also sharing in. And they're monitoring right now while they're ignoring the knocking on the door. The restaurant closes at 10, so I just wanted to show you that. This is the entity that's going to be subject to federal prison. This is P.O.C. This is what they're doing while they're just being documented gang stalking, and I'm going to prosecute for it. Hello? They're monitoring and listening. That's very loud. Remember, Lupe's engaging in this and claiming that she didn't see me outside, and claiming that, and now you're claiming that you wouldn't hear me knocking on the window. And the drive-thru and the diner both close at the same time while SHEEHY is engaged in gang stalking by engaging in targeted harassment. And I'm documenting SHEEHY right here, who is sharing in the pattern of conduct. So this is Wendy's that's being prosecuted while they are engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they would rather do this and go to prison than permit me into the restaurant. Either way, they are going to prison. This is P.O.C. Michael GERKEN is gang stalking with Wendy's while I'm en route to this venue, and this is speaking to the mentally ill behavior of SHEEHY targeting by not permitting into the restaurant during business hours. Okay? That's the pattern of conduct. It is currently, by the way, 9:21 p.m. They're acting stupid like they didn't hear. Hello. Are you closed? These are demons. I'm going to prosecute them. They're going to prison. This is targeted harassment that the entity is engaged in all day long. Are you guys closed? This is SHEEHY. They were gang stalking the entire time. Are you guys closed? What time? She said, yeah, we're closed. It says 10 o'clock right here, 10 o'clock. This is P.O.C. Hi.
Hi.
Are you guys closed?
No, I mean, you can come in.
Are you sure? I know you might not want me to, but is the business open right now? You're short staff? Do you guys just have your own discretionary hours, or is it based on what you are advertising right here? 10 o'clock.
Just can you come in, or you can come in, or
You didn't answer. You said it is? Because Skyly said it wasn't.
I don't know.
Okay, you don't know if it's open?
You have to stop recording.
I wasn't recording when I opened the door. I mean, when I went to open the door and it was locked.
We closed lobby at 9 because we just mopped.
You close the lobby at 9. Is that what it says here? You close the lobby at 9?
Yeah, that's what.
Okay, so she just said, I'm not recording right now, but it says 10 o'clock. And you're talking, she said it's closed, and then you're saying that it's not closed. So I'm just confused. That's all.
Me too, I'm confused.
So you just work here, you don't know? Is Lupe here, the manager?
She's not here today.
Okay, is there a manager that I could talk to? Because this is like a pattern when I'm coming. And I'm coming before 10 because I thought it was open until 10. Is this not right? I'm just confused. Where can I find out like what time it's open? Online, it says 10 o'clock as well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll call my boss, I guess.
Okay. Well, is it, I'm sorry, who am I talking to? Is it Skyly or is it you? Can I come in?
I told you already, you can come in.
Okay, she said behind you that it was closed, so alrighty. Thank you. I feel like I have to fight in order to get in the Wendy's. What's your manager's name that's over Lupe? Isn't it a male? No? Oh, okay. It's okay, I'll find out. I'm gonna contact them. Alrighty, I'm gonna order in a second, thank you. This is 9:24 p.m. So I guess we're not closed. Okay, not closed. This is an entity that's engaged in what is targeted harassment upon gang stalking. All right, and we're listening the whole time. You can hear me knocking. They're in engineer light. This is my shadow, multiple shadows on this wall right here. They're monitoring. Here's a shadow. This is the P.O.C. I'm gonna prosecute them. Alrighty, this is the entity that is engaged in vagina monitoring. This is Wendy's. This is how Wendy's is treating American citizens that they're keeping under surveillance while they're hostile to that. All right, that's the P.O.C. This is Skyly. This is what Lupe engaged in, and also lying about being open. This is P.O.C. It's 9:25 p.m. There are 4 employees. I'm counting 4 bodies, including Skyly. Oh boy. Do you know the information for corporate? Maybe. Do you have like a card maybe with corporate information? Nobody probably ever asked you that in the restaurant, right?
I'm not like allowed to give you information.
Corporate? You're always allowed to give corporate information, but that's okay. I just wanted to ask you that, and I will find it myself. Thank you. What is the name of your manager, though?
That's my boss?
Yeah, what's the name of your boss? Your boss should have a boss, right? Like, who's Lupe's boss? I guess Lupe identified herself as a manager, if that's true or not. But who's your boss? When you guys hold a team meeting, who is hosting the meeting? Who's telling you guys that we have a meeting? I just want their name. I don't need their social security number. I just want their name. Oh, okay, that's fine if you're hesitant to give out that information. I understand after lying about the Wendy's being closed and open. I get that. Thank you. It is 9:26, 9:27 p.m. All right, Union Pacific is the guise of amplified audible activity. There's no train that's going to be that loud. So Skyly and the employees in here that are lying about the restaurant being open, that are refraining from giving information in order to contact management, corporate, are engaging in monitoring while the entity has blaring train activity ongoing outside, which is occurring while they are ignoring me while I'm at the door. The entity is engaging what is criminal monitoring. Okay, so Union Pacific is engaging what is monitoring with
this is the entity that's harassing altogether. I'm going to prosecute Wendy's specifically as a corporate entity that is engaged in handling food while they're engaged in targeted harassment, and doing so with regard to the closure of the business during business hours. They have 4 employees in here that are operating in the drive-thru that closes at the same time. There's nothing on the window that says they close at 9 o'clock. And you're never closing during business hours, the front door. That's customary business. And Skyly's just making up off the top of her head, we mopped and so we're closing the diner area. This is an entity that's one's telling me it's closed, the other one's telling me it's open. This is what Lupe was doing with regard to that targeted harassment. You're going to prison for harassment. This is the government. So they're going to prison for that. So I just want to be clear. This is what and this is a pattern. More than once is a pattern. So you have a pattern of targeted harassment and you are going to prison. This is on top of what is gang stalking and furtherance of murder. Did you need something? Or are you just listening to me? Oh, okay. I was just waiting. So that's federal prison because this is upon federal group stalking and monitoring. So this is Lupe that's engaging in that, and you have the entity that's engaging in that's with the 4 employees that are here, a male, a short female, one that is apprehensive to provide any information, and they're engaging in also what is the preparation of food, engaging in this pattern of conduct. In Union Pacific, that's engaging in what is harassment. So this is how you're engaging in what is harassment with audible activity, pursuant to monitoring. First of all, I'm being molested in the parking lot of Wendy's while you are ignoring me at the door. By virtue of the impossible light, you know I'm at the door. This is the entity that's going to be, it's going towards your mental illness, your psychopathic disorder, and while you're sharing in criminal activity. And the entity that lies to your face, that engages in that sort of deceptive behavior while they're trying to kill you and act like it's not happening, very psychopathic. They are going to prison for this. And this is going from gang stalking at a fast food restaurant to prison time. This is what the entity is engaged in with the U.S. military. And as you're understanding, as I'm laying that out, it's no small thing. Just like working in a library that's designed for surveillance, you're going to prison for that. That's no small thing. So the entity is engaging in engaging in that together, while a bunch of gang stalkers are in the parking lot molesting with light, adding to prison time. And what is damages that Wendy's is going to be liable for. This is the entity that gets itself and exacerbates its own detriment while they're engaging in the mentally ill behavior of gang stalking. Okay, this is all because you want to lock the door during business hours because you don't like that I'm documenting the pattern of conduct. And if you weren't gang stalking, you would not even be aware of that and you wouldn't hold that guilty conscience. And you could tell me something as simple as, what's the name of your manager? How do you contact corporate? Why are you lying about the restaurant being open? Why is it a big deal? Like, why does it seem like there's a fight to get inside of the restaurant? Like, why is that? This is an entity that is making what was already gang stalking. You're already in trouble, in other words. And they've just made it worse because you're scared. This is not what you do when you're scared. Because that's what it is. It's fear. The fire department's getting you in trouble. The U.S. military stalking by planes over your restaurant are getting you in trouble. The people of the state that are stalking with light are getting you in trouble. And you're getting your own self in trouble while engaging in that because they are gang stalking, so they're not victims. I just want to document this. Targeted harassment is the basis of federal prison. These are the ongoing collateral harms. Collateral harms result in prison. I don't care if they pull your finger and the entity is engaging what is scratching your sweater. This is the government, and you're going to federal prison for any collateral harm suffered while you're already gang stalking and furtherance of murder. The entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct is one that is going to be subject to federal prison. It is as immediate as stalking with the police. You engage in that, you're automatically going to prison. All right, this is P.O.C. It's currently 9:32 p.m. All right, the mentally ill are lined around the restaurant with lights aimed toward Wendy's, which I've already shown you the light activity. I've shown you the military flying over. I documented the Ontario Fire Department engaging in what is criminal summoning en route to this venue. And I'm also documenting a pattern of them gang stalking in the engineered environment inside. This is the entity that's engaged in vagina monitoring. That includes Skyly. That includes the Latino male that's engaging. All 4 of them are sharing in the sex offense with the people of the state that are stalking with light with regard to what is anticipating a vagina being exposed in the bathroom, and they're doing so on behalf of the homosexuals that are stalking in the sky space, that are the sex offenders who are the U.S. military stalking by helicopter while I'm at the 10 freeway.
walking from Upland, stalking by helicopter while I am walking in Ontario today, stalking by helicopter last night, stalking by helicopter the day before that. These are the mentally ill that are going to be committed. And Wendy's restaurant, this Wendy's employees are going to prison. I did document their license plates. They are outside gang stalking with the demons that come and aid them. And what they're doing is they're coming and incriminating them because they're going to prison for that. I took pictures of that. This is Wendy's criminal activity. It is the employees criminal, and they produce everything. In a criminal court case, when you're going to prosecute gang stalking, literally discovery, who was working, and I won't have to ask who your manager is. I'm prosecuting, and they're turning over all this information in the ordinary process of a trial, okay, like discovery. And the entity is engaging in what is providing all of this. So the target individual, you don't have to go through and figure out and come back and invest. You don't have to do none of that. The entity is going to hand it over. They're going to hand over their own identities, and they are going to prison. Whatever your name is, you are going to federal prison. And the entity is making money. This is a federal RICO case. So you're going to prosecute regarding profits by the demons that are gang stalking, by stalking at a restaurant with the entity that is maintaining evidence for the target individual against you, okay? That's the government, that's the people of the state that are stalking, and all the psychopathic manners that Wendy's is engaging in. This is P.O.C. It's currently 9:35 p.m. This is Wendy's that's engaging in what is gang stalking while they were ignoring me at the door, while the people of the state are stalking with light. You are engaging in what is targeted harassment, doing so while lying about whether the restaurant's open, which is what Lupe did. You didn't know, but the state is gang stalking me where you work. Yes, you did know, and that's also going to be relevant to involuntary commitments, psychopaths that are engaging in the pattern of conduct. The entity is also stalking by helicopter. I'm going to take a picture right now while the entity is stalking with light. The employees in this restaurant are going to prison. This is P.O.C. And this is the U.S. military and the Wendy's employees that are engaged in vagina monitoring together. I'm capturing the green and red light while the helicopter is flying over. This is the same entity that was stalking me while I am walking on Euclid Avenue today. This is the entity that's engaged in what is stalking with Union Pacific. Amplified train activity is what's occurring while I go and reach for the door and it's open. It's as though the demons are laughing. That's how loud the train activity is. It's symbolic of the entity engaging in what is amplified audible activity while I go to open the door of the restaurant that is supposed to be open because it doesn't close till 10, and it's locked. And as I seek to open the door, and Skyly and the employees are ignoring me, the train activity is what fills the environment in the engineer light. So these are the employees that are ignoring, that are monitoring, and I just want to document that that's all relevant to the psychological torture that I'm subject to while the entity is gang stalking, including the sex offensive molestation via engineer light and the psychological torture inherent to the mentally ill that are stalking with light outside of Wendy's. Okay, this is P.O.C. I am taking pictures of that while the entity is engaged in psychopathic pacing. That's what you'll see on Euclid Avenue. The people of the state that are on the roads and the highways, they're pacing one vehicle after another. That's not Euclid, excuse me, that's Hope Boulevard. That's not traffic, they're stalking. And the demons are right in front of the Wendy's restaurant, aiming light toward the restaurant. They're stalking with light. Okay, and they're doing so with the anticipation of a vagina being exposed in the bathroom that they are keeping under surveillance on behalf of the government that's providing evidence against everybody. So I just want to go over all that because everybody in this restaurant's going to prison. It's P.O.C. It is currently 9:37 p.m. I do want to document another name that I observed is Danitza, D-A-N-I-T-Z-A. Very, very short, probably about 4'3", 4'2" in height, perhaps a Latina female. And I believe the name is Danitza, and then there's Sky Lee, and then there's the male that is working in the kitchen, and then the female that I was talking to about corporate who did not want to give me any information. She just kept saying she didn't know. She is the one that let me into the restaurant, however. She just didn't want to answer any questions. She kept saying she did not know. And she is not wearing a name on her. So I just want to document that. Danitza and Skyly are the ones that are identified. And I also took images. This is P.O.C. It's 9:40 p.m. Alrighty, I caught a picture of it, but I'm going to go ahead and capture just a short video. This is capturing the fake moon that is squarely over the top of my head as I walk out of the door, where the door is situated that I'm going to exit in the engineered light. All right, my multiple shadows, okay? And the fake moon right over my head. Okay, that's not a star over here. That's the military. And there is co-defendant right here, stalking with light.
All right. These are sex offenders that then go into the drive-through and molest with light in doing so, make a purchase, federal RICO, psychopathic behavior, and then locking the door during business hours. I just want to confirm this. The entity is engaged in what is monitoring in the bathroom. All right. Those are sex offenders. And again, let me confirm the license plates of those engaging in what is targeted harassment, which is federal prison. You have Skyly, remember, as I move, a stalker coming out of nowhere. That's a demon. And the fake moon moves as I move. Those are the psychopaths that are stalking any move that you make. You see, I'm glad that you're witnessing this because they're going to be committed. This is a spirit, a demonic spirit, which is the spirit of mental illness that is occupying an entire population. And the population that at Wendy's is engaged in targeted harassment, for which you go to prison. License 7 Paul Frank Bob 684 and license plate 6 Mary Queen Xavier 427. And AutoZone is gang stalking as well. Systematic engagement in the pattern of conduct. Demons creeping in the parking lot. Your headlights are not going to touch this car. They're engaging in that P.O.C. I'm prosecuting AutoZone as well. All right, just giving you with regard to relevant positioning. This is P.O.C. and that's the fake moon. That's moving as I move. Where the fake moon is, where the government is stalking, where the people of the state are stalking, you hear me knocking at the door. You already know that I'm there. You are monitoring a demon that is keeping my vagina under surveillance. You are aware of who I am. You're going to be committed with this conduct. This is the P.O.C. Everybody in there, Danitza, Skyly, and the other 2 are going to prison. This is P.O.C. It's currently 9:53 p.m. This is Satan. This is P.O.C. This is Satan that is stalking. This is that linebacker that refuses to abandon position, stalking obsessively. Is everything okay? Is that a person? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a person. Oh, okay. Are you just sitting there? Oh, okay. It is P.O.C. This is the fake moon. The entity flying the military. That's the entity in a smaller military aircraft stalking in the path, lurking in the dark. Right? These are the linebackers. Okay? These are the demon-possessed linebackers on the football field, making sure they surround. This is Satan. This is the entity that's going to be subject to martial law. Okay, coming out of nowhere, the blackness of dark. Coming out of nowhere. I've already identified that as a pattern of conduct, as the entity. Any subtle movement surrounding stalking obsessively. Obsession is not identified in the conventional way where you're looking at somebody drooling at the mouth. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with you. Their obsession is shown through and they do behave like that, but they also engage in showing obsession through the environment, through also the maintenance of presence in that path. Any move that you make, somebody popping up out of nowhere, somebody immediately engaging what is presence when no one is seemingly present before, engaging in inconspicuous stalking, and then conspicuously because they're maintaining presence in your path, in that engineer light with regard to monitoring you, making sure that every move you make and everything that you're doing, especially on your devices, while the entity is following you with an environment that is supernatural, this is how you're measuring and identifying and prosecuting regarding what is a threat as an entity is obsessed with the targeted individual. That's understanding obsession, where the demon possessed are maintaining what is a public corruption. They're maintaining they're engaged in what is public corruption pursuant to what is a malicious targeting system. They're targeting through everyone, including this demon. This is a demon possessed person. That's what I mean by that. Satan. That is literally the spirit of Satan. And this is a demon that is obsessed with me. They are in perfect alignment with the bench that they know that I'm going to. This is a demon that's stalking in the path the moment that I'm walking back toward where my property is located. This is the fake moon remaining over me from Wendy's, where they're maintaining that pattern of conduct, obsessively stalking. And so are the people of the state, obsessed. All of them. Obsession is not based on the fact that you kissed them before or you were involved with them in a relationship. No, they're obsessed because they're demon possessed. And the demon possession is proven through the pattern of conduct, the environment, it's demonic activity.
This is Satan that is obsessed with me, and Satan is in control of an entire population, and they are mentally ill. And everything about the environment is showing mental illness and obsession regarding criminal activity, which you're going to prosecute the government for. This demon is hiding their face. They're engaging in what is crouching downward, also wanting to inconspicuously be present, actually. But I noticed it, and they refuse to stop stalking. That's obsession. Satan doesn't go anywhere. Satan refuses to cease to engage in stalking you. Satan never abandons relevant positioning. That's obsession. Okay, that's the P.O.C. It is currently 11:31 p.m. This is a light activity at the town square. You're paying attention to the blinking light. It's demonic. Impossible light activity, which is not from their headlights. Those are demons. They are stalking together with the demon that's bent over, hiding their face. They're stalking together with the demons that are maintaining surveillance around me, crossing path, coming out of nowhere, hiding behind walls and bushes and trees. And that's what the demon possessed do. That's the U.S. military. Those are not soldiers. Those are not veterans. Those are stalkers. Okay? And specifically, they are demon possessed. Psychological warfare, by the way, that's demonic. And that comes from the homosexuals of the U.S. military that are practicing demonic activity. And the people of the state are a bunch of demons that have not been through the academy. Okay? You know how they are engaging in psychological warfare? Because they are demons. They don't have to go through official training through the military because it is the product of Satan. It's a spirit, and they're engaging in that which is going to have them involuntarily committed, including while the entity. I can use this to prosecute every single last person. The entity is stalking in the dark, engaging what is obsessively stalking me. This is the pattern of conduct. It is currently 11:32 p.m.